That's all girls. The trophy is Wonder Woman riding on a horse. Okay, I have to take it back. That'll be fun. Hopefully. I'm in the wrong thing. Is there stuff for this one?
Oh, look, how just
Yeah.
right. You got kids. That's how it's
Joan, just, if it was an existing policy, I would have it said that there was revisions, were the revisions the highlighted parts?
The revisions were from Kate that had the highlighted.
But those were the highlighted parts, so that's what I focused on. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Oh. I thought it was gonna be back then.
Oh, I didn't know.
I was like, oh, sorry, new one? Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you do. I'm except for May, who likes to.
Right. I didn't realize we were, you were already done that. And, Kelly, a lot of them we're not even gonna talk about because they don't apply, so
Okay.
it's like a bunch. I'll go
Well, I
through
just
those
had a
first.
question, and I think I noted that on a few of them. I just was having that generic question.
Yeah.
Before it got
Yeah,
started.
we'll go about it different next time, but in terms of what Kate sent us.
Because there was one about graduation.
Yeah, I know,
It's like-
where we could never conform to every high school, so we're not going there, less is more. Especially in terms of policy. East Con doesn't have any policies, so we're starting to build some.
East Con doesn't
Is
have
this your
any?
first policy?
No.
Not kidding.
Did you find
No.
it?
No, not kidding. I'm like,
Not like ours.
I was like, oh my God.
Well, that's, yeah, like.
No, I asked 3 times if I was in the executive director team and I said, I'm not giving this
Oh, yeah.
anymore. We don't have bylaws.
Okay.
We don't have policy.
All right, 1903, we have a quorum, we are gonna get started. So we're gonna start with the pledge of allegiance.
Really cool flag. I love that flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we can just have a moment of silence for the students in Parkland, Florida. Thank you. Before we get to public comment, I would entertain a motion, just so that I can do this away for everyone's space. We are going to add to the discussion of policies, policy number 3541.1 and 3541.311 to the agenda item 13E.
3541.1, 3541.311?
Yes. And those were in your packets, in your books, sorry.
in the folder. In the folder.
So, motion,
Move, so
Emily. Second, anyone, or any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And I would like to, I would entertain a motion to add agenda item. Okay, sorry, I'll figure out where we should put it. 11F, under new business, and it's to consider a request to allow a UConn student researcher to contact families and conduct research.
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, thank you very much. Those stickies up here, so I'm gonna put them over those. All right, public comment. All right. Does anybody have any corrections to the minutes for the special meeting on January 24th, 2018, which is the budget workshop, the regular meeting on January 24th, the grievance hearing meeting, which was on February 8th, the 2018-19 calendar, which was on February 8th, a budget workshop, which is on February 21st, or our Lighthouse District meeting, which was on February 21st. Any corrections that need to be made to any of those minutes? So I would entertain a motion to approve all of the minutes that we've listed. But you could make a motion, can't you?
I can, I just have to abstain from approving that one because I wasn't.
That's the same one for me too.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, so I don't know if we have to do them separately or do we just make note of that?
Okay, so Kelly and Joan are abstaining from B because they were not in attendance.
Right.
But Joan, are you making the motion to accept those except for the ones that you can't
Yes.
for? Okay,
And I'll second
with the same
with the same.
caveat
Yeah.
that you are approving all of the ones that you were in attendance, which is
Yes.
not the. So they were not in attendance at the January 24th meeting. So Kelly and Joan, when they say aye, except for that one.
I'll make a motion to approve that one.
All right,
Second.
second, okay, thanks. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good, thank you. All right, Mrs. Buell, you have communications from the QV, the Quincy Valley Special Olympics Talent Show Police Coordinator, Michelle.
Yes.
Who said? Is that right?
Yep. I did receive an email request from Mrs. Pulsena, who she has an event that has happened here year after year. I think it's the 8th year for a talent showcase, I think, for Special Olympics. They do use our facilities and they have evening rehearsals here throughout the year. And they're getting ready for their May Special Olympic Talent Showcase. What they asked is, based on our new policy, which charges fees for, so we have rental fees and custodial fees because they're a not-profit group. They would not be charged for the use of the rooms. However, they would be charged for any custodial overtime. So the question was, could they do it again and would there be fees? And so I explained that it is a board policy that there are fees. We charge fees to cover the cost of the custodians. So I said that I can't, she asked, could the fees be waived? And so I said, I don't have the authority to do that. That's a board policy and the board decision to waive the fees if considered. I did calculate the fees for, it's a Friday evening and a Saturday performance. It's about $400 of fees for custodian for those 2 days. So, the recommendation that I have is it would be difficult to waive the custodial fees, which are actual fees that we have to pay for this group and not other groups, such as PTO and
Just paid a
Boy Scouts.
big old bill.
So, that would be my recommendation, is that you continue to follow your policy without making an exception for this one.
It's unfortunate that we do have to, do these fees, but it's not a money-making endeavor. It's just trying to break even on cost, and they're not being charged for the facility use, which could be a big hindrance for any group. It's if we have to have custodians here, and I would hate to open that.
Does the Friday night, is it the same period of time where they're here anyways?
So the Friday evening, I think we are going to need to charge them for 3 hours on Friday. I'll look at that because they're going to have over 75 people. So the contract, the custodial contract says if it's over 75 people, we need to charge additional hours for overtime. I'm not positive we have to charge them for all 3 hours, but that's what I calculated just so I'd have a baseline. So then Saturday is 5 hours.
Yeah, because there's nobody here on the Saturday, but I was just thinking maybe on the Friday night where they're already here. I don't know,
Yeah.
there's a little bit of,
Is there anything they could do in terms of recouping that expense, as part of the event, like,
They do charge a fee.
bake sale or
Sell
entry
candy.
fee or something, $2 to enter.
They may choose to do that. So they are charging an admission fee to the people who come to the event. So I assume that money goes back into the Special Olympics and.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, it's unfortunate. You don't want to charge anybody for anything, but given the situation that we're in, we're forced to implement policy that we just implemented that says, we need to cover our expenses in a
Are they
fiscally
Brooklyn
responsible
kids
way.
by any chance? Or is it like an area?
It's the Quinbog Valley, it's regional, so it's not just Brooklyn, and it's not just children, so they're adults too. They actually are anticipating, I think, like 400 people here, between the participants or the that are in the talent show and their community. So
Maybe they can charge an extra $1 would cover it.
I don't think that we can weigh that.
No, I don't think
Because,
so
because
either.
we're gonna, we have local groups that are, I'm not saying these, but we have groups directly from our schools that are being charged custodians for Saturdays,
What's
so we can't.
the line item income that we get from extracurricular? Do you have any idea?
what we just started to
We
collect
just started.
for building fees, we don't have much yet. So I don't have the answer, but I can find out. That money, any money that we collect would go in to offset the actual costs. So that money that comes in goes into custodial time.
Doesn't show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just in the past administration always thought that the buildings belong to the town people and the taxpayers, and people who don't have children might come to an event that the buildings would, that they've already paid for. And I understand we have extra fees, but it's kind of nice also to allow the community to use the building.
Right. I think the only question is, if we were to do that. So I think it came to light last year that didn't really budget for the extra custodial fees that are necessary to run these types of events. So it's not just custodians. So if there's someone using the kitchen, we have to have a kitchen staff person there as well. So I think, somehow you've got to project that in to budget if we're not going to charge people or we have to charge.
So if someone comes in after school and there's already custodians in the building, we're not charging them. So we're still not charging the Girl Scouts.
Right. Rehearsals, they've got about 5 rehearsals, and so as long as they're not bringing all 200 people in to practice, they've got, they're breaking it up into chunks over those 5 days, they don't have to do
I think that something like this probably they always have been required to play because it is a big thing and it's not really just our community.
And again, we're not charging for the building use, we're just charging to cover the custodian. The extra, because of the number of people, we have to have not only a custodian, but an extra custodian. So again, I don't feel that the school system is trying to make money off of any sort of improvement. It's literally just trying to cover costs.
And when we considered this policy, we looked at what neighboring towns do, and neighboring towns do charge fees for custodial services to bring money just to cover the costs. So we're not doing anything that's out of the norm of what happens in the community. And getting this space for
So when you charge
$400 is still a
PTO, it's
pretty
only
good deal.
for non-school hour events.
That's Saturday.
Was like the holiday.
Okay.
And we're only charging what the custodians that are here are actually making, right?
The rate that you identified was $50 an hour, so it's higher than what the custodian is making. So,
So we are making money.
so
you get into the administrative part of
utilities and.
Lights on and heat. and
Right.
all that stuff.
So there is a slight charge there. So, unless the board wants to begin to play with that, that's.
No, because I remember we looked at what surrounding towns were charging, and 50 was the norm.
I just would hate to,
I don't want to
I don't know.
penalize anyone either.
you know what, no, not even that, even just, get back to a custodian, you're paying $50 for me to be here on a Saturday, I'm not making $50 to be here. That sort of,
No,
But the
those-
thing of it is if you
There's
hired
utilities.
a carpenter to come and work at your house, if the carpenter rate that's in your quote is $50 an hour, I can bet you 10 to 1 that carpenter's not making $50.
I understand that, I'm
Because
just
there's
saying,
other-
that's
because
not,
it's
but we're
been-
not a private business either. And I mean, do we really actually turn the heat on a Saturday, or is it is what it is, you know what I'm saying, like?
No,
So
Turn
the
the lights
heat's and the
around.
lights, and so what will happen, and so the cleaning supplies, the trash bags, so, And so I think what will happen, and I've seen this in other places, where if there begins to be a small buildup of like excess $15, over time, that money could be used to repaint the room or replace that row of lights that went out in the auditorium. So the auditorium they would have paid $200 to rent the auditorium for the day, which clearly we're not charging, but, again, that fee would go, so like a dance club rents the auditorium, if there's damage to the seats, if we, over time, the more it's used, the more it needs to be replaced. So it's sort of those improvements or repairs that the building might need.
And ceiling tiles.
Yeah, we haven't finished fixing all that yet. So you don't need to take a motion or anything on that, I don't think. We'll just follow the.
I think as long as it's presented to them that way.
And it's just, I mean, I know the first year of any change is always hard, and it's just a matter of, I can say from the group that I'm with, our experience, we just have to budget a little bit differently. So it's just that first year of, well, we made our budget before it changed their policy, which is, it happens, and it can happen at any point in time with anything. It's like, okay, well, the cost of stamps went up, so now we have to that. So, but, I think in the explanation of we're just trying to cover our costs, we're not gouging. If you get the space for free, so. And you had some thank you notes?
Yeah, I actually didn't record all of those. I have passed those on, but so just a thank you note came from Joan to the board regarding the participation on the CAVE legislative breakfast. Thank you notes went out to each individual student who volunteered at that breakfast, our National Junior Honor Society students who volunteered at that breakfast. Each got a thank you note. I think last time I mentioned that the note had not gone out for a donation to the City Savings Bank, but it has since gone out. So, I just try to keep up on those and let you know that we are communicating with the public and letting them know that we appreciate their support and to our own students. So that was I just want to make sure that people are aware of that.
As far as Brooklyn's Best, do we have anything for the elementary school?
Yes, I think you have a new Brooklyn's Best to put into your.
It's in the packet.
Oh, good. Oh, okay. Thank you. All right. So there's so many wonderful things going on. Again, this agenda item, right? Some of the great things that are going on. So Brooklyn Elementary School, last Friday they had a great assembly to kick off the Celebrate Students Read Across America Week. They've got themes happening. I think I saw lots of crazy dressed
Wacky Wednesday.
We also had the book bus, which is Plainfield owns the book bus. It's sponsored by the Connecticut Education Association, who received from the Connecticut Education Foundation a donation to purchase books for every individual child in 4th grade. So all 4th grade students got to board the bus. I did get some great pictures of the bus and the people there.
My boys were thrilled. They were both reading the book that they got today. I mean, without me asking them to read it. Is the caveat. They were just simply reading it. They loved it.
It was very exciting. That was just outside our office here today. Brooklyn Elementary School has just received materials for their kindness campaign, Look for the Good project. So it's something that you'll be hearing more about, but they're just going to kick off. I have not heard about Mr. Maloney's entry yet. I think he was supposed to hear today, so I don't know about that. Is there?
I was just looking at the Follett website. It looks like he was not named a finalist, but I don't know. I don't want to say for sure.
Okay. right. Well,
They've got 3 finalists listed for an elementary school, and middle school, and high school must be, so.
well, we certainly are proud of him.
Yeah,
and what
Yeah,
he's
it's
doing.
a heck of an effort.
Yeah, and whether he received it or didn't, was doing some great things in that area. So we're very pleased and proud of him. Under the middle school, we've heard it, but congratulations to the boys and girls basketball teams. They were undefeated this season. Both teams played in the playoffs, and both boys and girls beat the Thompson boys and girls. And it was a pretty amazing evening for those kids. The following Saturday, I think that was on a Friday night, the following Saturday, the boys and girls, I think it was Thursday, the boys and girls went to Winnie and were live on the radio, being interviewed, and pretty exciting for them. The coaches and some of the mostly 8th graders went. This past week, Brooklyn Middle School also had their Olympics. I do have pictures that need to go on to my blog, which will go soon. I'm a little bit behind on that. So I have a lot of great pictures of the Olympics at the middle school. I have pictures of a variety of things, but so we'll get those updated very, very soon.
What types of things were they doing? That's new.
So I don't know. So it's new to you.
Yeah,
It's new to me, but I didn't know if it had been done.
Okay.
So you could see them playing like different, like floor hockey games with like Nerf balls. But I'll try to give you some
that's neat.
a better idea
That's
on
great.
it.
There's relay races and hockey was one
Did they do curling?
No.
No sculling.
So they really had a good time, and I think that some of the things that they're doing are trying to bring the community together as a group. When they had their little pep rally before the game, also similar kind of thing where kids got called out of the stands and they were playing. We call it horse, but it's something else now. They call it something else, like a basketball game. No. Well, kind of like that.
Kind of like that.
But-
yeah.
So they were playing knockout. Thank you.
Yes.
Knockout. That's the name. So they were playing knockout, and so kids and staff were playing together, and it was just a lot of positive energy, a lot of kids smiling and having fun.
Did you play?
I did not. I took some pictures. Today, the National Junior Honor Society hosted a blood drive, and they were the greeters and the canteen station, and did a nice job with that. And the 7th grade board game club meets after school, so I guess that's been going on. One of the 7th grade teachers coordinates that, and I guess it's a nice group of kids that are, so you can shake your head, yeah, so a group of kids that that's kind of their thing, and so they've been having fun with that as well. A little plug out there for Alice in Wonderland. The rehearsals are well underway. Kids are real excited about the performances. Those dates are March 23rd and March 24th. So I guess it's a can't miss kind of show. So last year they did a production, and this year they're very excited about this production. 6th grade invention convention was last night. Parents came to that. And
Saw some good inventions.
yes, yeah. So pictures of the inventions too that'll go on there. So it's a lot of great things. Clever kids. Their ideas that they've got to solve a problem, and so they come up with a way to solve the problem. A lot of excitement. I wasn't here last night. I got to see the projects this morning, and I saw what happens is other kids get to go and view the projects and they rate them. So the 5th graders got to go and see the projects, so they'll know what to start thinking about for next year. And I happened to get there between classes, and some boys just happened to be walking down the hall. You want to see a really good invention? Go down there. And so they're really excited. And I said, is it one you did? And he said, no, I'm in 8th grade. Or no, I'm in 7th grade. And so, but they're excited about their peers' inventions. So it's really nice to see. And then there's a book club, and I'm not sure I know enough about the book club yet, but I was asked to celebrate the book club at the festival.
Great stuff.
I want to add to the elementary school. I know that the 3rd graders tonight had their climate evaluation. So they were in that, so marking the child presentation this evening. So I'm sure there'll be some good pictures.
I'll forget.
All right, current budget report.
All right, so budget, report is in your binder. I will tell you, we've not spent a lot of time going over this. There's very little spending going on. And we're continuing to kind of track down grants, grant money. It's not all in here. I don't know if I told you that, the town had applied and received a $10,000 grant for energy projects. And so that was great timing because it got moved. That money was what we used to fund all of our lights. So we've got LED lights that are being replaced, so they're way more efficient, and we've improved the outdoor lighting as well. So that was money that came through the town. They had applied for and hadn't spent it yet. So I know that's not the current budget, but so we're going to continue to monitor that budget. I know that negative $600,000 is not a solid number yet because of grant funding that hasn't come in yet, including the 10,000 and a lot of other funds.
All right. As far as the substitute calling service.
So I brought this up at the last meeting, the possibility of going to a self-calling service, and our current system is we have a person that takes all the calls and calls all the subs and gets the subs in. So I had explored the possibility of moving to a calling system where teachers can call night or day. If you're up in the middle of the night and you know you're going to be out, you can call in at that time. It goes in the system. And it's a very customized system. You all had asked me to reach out to the current subs. So six out of six subs, I'm sorry, let me try one more time. The responses came back from 6 people. All 6 of those people only sub for Brooklyn. So I asked the 4 questions. One of the substitutes has used ASAP before and loved it, and, raved over it. 2 out of the 6 substitutes indicated that they do not use their phone or computers that often, so it might be more, might be more challenging for them to take a sub job. However, ASAP does bring the house phone, so right. So yeah, I don't think it would eliminate that option for them. 3 out of the 6 indicated that they would be interested in using that type of sub service and that it would not impact their ability to secure sub jobs. We were just trying to make sure if we remove this, is it really gonna benefit us, or are we gonna exclude some subs?
So is that the only 6 people that sub in Brooklyn?
Those are the only 6 people that returned. Yeah.
But
there aren't
so
that
they
many
must
more.
work almost every day.
Yes.
But we would kind of have to say that if this is what the system is, and this is how you get notified if you do or don't have a job, then you kind of have to learn how to use the system.
And
I
get other people
that's my point.
branching it out.
Yeah. And I think that right now the subs that take positions get a phone call. So the subs that want to continue to get a phone call instead of a text message will still get a phone call.
I like the shared calendar part of it. So I like that when you're out, you can, place within the calendar when you're out, and then actually even choose a sub if you have a preferred sub, right?
The teacher can do the calendar. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the teacher can, and now, even now, I have sub in the audience, but I might be out and I might say, I'm going to be out next Friday or next Thursday and Friday, and are you available? So a lot of times I think it's word of mouth. That's not going to change. That's still going to happen.
Right.
But if you're my preferred sub, I can say to the system, call Amy first. And so the system sends the message out to Amy first. So it's not any different than me saying to the caller. Yeah. And so I think that, and then I say, okay, I'm going to put my sub in now. And then you say, okay, I'm ready to go. And you select the job. So I think it's still going to have the ability to connect with the right sub at the right time. However, I think it might provide more opportunities to people that don't need to use that older system and are used to their phone all the time. I did ask if anyone had any referrals for subs, and I didn't get any, but But that's all right, well, you know, we continue to look. I have 2 subs in the works right now that are processing. We have to do fingerprints and background checks, but I think we have 2 new subs coming on, so that's kind of glad.
So where are we with using ASOP?
It would be my intention to move forward with that.
And what is the expense? Do we know? Is it built in?
I
No.
I had it in there, I think
Did you?
it's
Okay.
like $2,700, I think.
Oh, all right.
So I think there's a setup fee and then there's an annual fee.
And would that be something that, would we start utilizing it now in this school year to test it, so to speak, of kind of looking at the kinks? Or?
I think I would pay for, so I would have to check. I think I asked this question. I think we can sign up for it in March and pay until the next March. So it's a 12-month period, even though you're paying only for 10 months because you're not
in the summer.
right, and you don't get charged. So,
Yeah.
but it may be that I would pay from March to June and then have a new contract. But I would have to look at this year's budget. So.
It might be a good thing to bring up tomorrow night too at the cooperative meeting, you know, about what towns are using it, because I know many of them do use it in the area. And can we do something collective to, if there's other districts that are looking to come on board with it?
Yeah. And they're pretty transparent. This is your rate. It's a per person rate and yeah.
It's non-negotiable.
Right. They also are, so it's Frontline is the big company and they have ASOP, they have IP Direct. They're like the master of school software.
Per person, like how many staff members we have per
Yes.
person?
So how many people might
How many
fall
people
into this
register for it?
Yeah. And so, you know, when I look at it, I say, well, I'm not having custodians or cafeteria employees calling in for subs, so I'm not counting them. So I'm just calling, and I'm not counting social workers because we don't get subs for them. So it's those people that only those people that need a sub.
So you're looking,
But I think it's the people that users that register into your account, right? So it wouldn't only be the teachers or the staff members that need a sub, it would be the pool of people who could sign.
I don't believe so.
No? Okay. I misread it then, I guess.
Because I think, but I'm pretty sure it's my
Yeah.
employees that would be using the service.
Okay.
You have it, so,
I might have, I don't know if I have to look.
so.
because wouldn't that almost seem prohibitive in a sense of like, all right, so if I have, and I'm just trying to mentally, if I've got 10 teachers that I potentially would, or 10 positions that I potentially need subs for, you would want a bigger pool of people that could potentially sub for them. But then it almost seems like you could penalize. So instead of having 10 people in your sub pool, you have 30, and you charge extra to have more people to have a.
Right,
it
and I
doesn't
don't
seem
think
like
we
that.
get charged that way, and I think, so the same sub could be on 5 different schools' lists, and then that company would be making money off. Yeah, right. But there's,
That wouldn't work well.
I mean, definitely something to research, but it seems like it-
I'm pretty sure it's just for us. but-
Somebody can have certain and all, you know, some kind of contact.
Right.
All right, Board of Education committee reports. We met earlier and discussed the budget steering committee. So as of right now, we are going to publish the budget that we discussed earlier at 6 o'clock on the website and invite questions. We're gonna hold off on approving that budget until our March 28th meeting. And depending on if we get new information before then, we may have another special meeting for a budget workshop. But our goal is for March 28th to vote and accept the budget that we will be presenting to the Board of Finance officially on April 10th at their meeting. Special budget exception. So as far as that. Representatives to other groups, Capital is working on setting up a meeting for the month of March. We're just trying to get dates together since we're all on different committees, so it's always the juggling of the calendars. I did not attend Board of Finance last week because I was here with budget and Playhouse. Anything exciting that we missed?
We don't have too exciting.
Generally low key, so every once in a while you get, exciting stuff. Hickam and Holcomb didn't come in.
It's not time for them. First quarter's got to be over. I mostly railed against the accounting system. Pissed off a few people.
The norm.
So
That was the
nothing,
only-
so nothing out of the ordinary.
That was the only exciting part.
Good job, Jeff.
Recreation. Woodstock.
Woodstock, yes, we had a retreat last night to talk about some changes that will be coming up with the bylaws. And it was really just, the entire board to talk about restructuring. So right now, the way the bylaws are written, based on the, 1932 or something edition, we put together a committee that represents the three different groups within the Board of Trustees and looked at, there was one set of bylaws for the corporators and one set of bylaws for trustees. So we met probably 5 or 6 times, went over how to rewrite those bylaws to combine them into one, and then presented that to the full board last night. And we're just kind of in first read mode, so we don't have approval yet, but we're excited to move ahead and to have one combined. The plan, I think, in terms of sending town representation will change to allow other sending towns to Woodstock Academy to have a representative. There was a state statute at one point that said we were allowed up to 2 representatives from each town on the Board of Trustees. That state statute has since been rescinded.
And you had to be on the finance committee and the executive committee.
So, the way that it was written, there was representation for sending towns to be on finance and on executive, which Kelly and I do now. Kelly does finance, I do executive. So the proposal is to bring that to 1 to allow more room for more sending towns since there are more
It's at
kids
the
coming
limit right
from
now.
other.
Right.
Yeah, we're at the limit of 30 trustees to make room for that. So we had discussion about that, about the term being a 6-year term versus a 2-year term, because of course the academy would like people to commit to be embedded, to really be, hopefully move on to being either a community representative or corporator or, some pathway. So we did that last night for 3 hours, 2 hours, whatever it was.
These things are
Yeah, I'll keep you up to date on when we get closer to voting on that. There's still some tweaking happening.
Yeah,
And then,
they
yeah,
have a bunch of questions.
everybody had a little something to say, and I think the committee's planning to reconvene and then tighten things up and
It can't be voted
re-present
on until the
end of
annual
school
meeting
year, right?
anyway,
Yeah, until
so.
the beginning. A week before is what their law said when the corporators had their meeting, but now it's prior to the start of the school year. So that's a work in process for sure. Prior to that, I had EastCon at 4, and we had the 2 magnet schools from EastCon present. The magnet school at the Quinnebog Valley Community College, which is Quinnebog Middle College. And we also had ACT, which is the Arts at the Capitol Theater in Willimantic. And there is a movement to get more enrollment at QMC. So the executive director, Gary Mala, has been working with a proposal to bring in students from Hartford. So as you may or may not know, the way that it happens now is each town is afforded so many seats at the middle college, and then based upon whether or not you fill those seats, we can borrow seats from other districts, which is good because it's an alternative learning environment. They really work under like a weekly town meetings where all the kids are involved. 40% of the kids that are attending are special ed or 504 students. So it's a very different environment. And their core beliefs that they operate under is inspiration, kindness, and respect. So their principal, their vice principal, some of their teachers were there last night to talk to us about that. how they're trying to grow that. Their democratic learning community, as they call it, was really inspiring, and they just went through their accreditation process and passed, so that was wonderful. And ACT gave us the same overview. They've got 120 students there, so that was encouraging. And then on the birth to 3 front, this was staggering to me. A year ago, there were 75 kids that were in that program, and right now there's 147. So it's almost doubled. And they're saying that the uniqueness and the intensity of the syndromes is like nothing they've seen. So that's just something I made note of. They have 30 pending referrals right now. And the question is, how does East Con keep up with that? From a professional resources standpoint, you know, right now they're trying to find Spanish speaking language specialists. Not exactly an easy thing to do. And that's about it.
Did they talk about the increase being people moving into the area, or like, do they?
Well, we did ask, is it a specific area? Meaning, is it Mid-Atlantic? Is it Vernon? Is it Stafford? You know, where is this happening? And there's always one program that you may know, I don't know, that was shut down. So there's some of that that has increased it, but it's not any specific area. It's kind of blended and
So a few from
spread
each
out.
town,
Yeah,
and
from
it
everywhere.
just adds up.
It's just ballooning. So
And is that just, do they talk about, is it because, I don't know how you disseminate that, but are there more kids that need services? Is it because more people are knowing that the possibilities
who
are?
knows? You know, there's a lot of actually comments like that. And somebody said, one person made a comment that, you know, we're saving lives earlier. And I thought that was interesting, you know, having 25-week preemies that are now 19. But, you know, that's true. I mean, it used to be cusp of life was 25 weeks, and now it's 22 and 23. You know, is that a factor? Who knows? Not sure what the factors are, but it's definitely something that seems to be increasing rapidly. The other thing I wanted to mention was that the Woodstock Academy is hosting their school safety conference, which will be held at the Center for the Arts, the former High Culture Center, and they're offering our towns free participation. So I'm hoping that we'll be a part of that because Craig Rich, who is the head of security at Woodstock, has coordinated this whole thing, and it looks like it's going to be a great session to be involved in. So.
Oh, we should probably mention too, their big first
Marshall Tucker Band.
Marshall Tucker Band is coming up on March 16th.
Right.
I think there are still tickets available.
Yeah.
The seats are all the brand new seats in the theater are being put in this week. So
yeah,
it's very exciting.
Good stuff going on.
If anybody wants to go see that big show.
Yep. And then the last thing I'll say is related to the to CAVE, and that is March 7th is the day on the Hill. And that's when all of the boards of ed, and a lot of them with kids, which is wonderful, they will bring busloads of kids, usually, you know, the big 5, Bridgeport, New Haven, the bigger cities will
Take
bring
them out of school and bring them.
busloads of kids to the Day on the Hill, which is our Education Day on the Hill. And that happens on March 7th. It starts at 8:30. It's at the Bushnell. Usually wraps up around noontime. So if you can come, it's a great experience.
It starts at what time?
8:30.
Yeah, okay.
Anything from Killing Week?
They sent me an update and forgot to attach it, so I don't have anything today. So, and I replied to her and she was out of the office. So hopefully next time.
Any other representatives who, other things they missed? I think so. All right.
I did have, just going back to the frontline thing.
Yes.
So I do have it here. So they, let's see, the setup fee is, I don't know if the numbers are still the same or not, but this is what you've given us last month.
Yeah.
So the setup fee is $4,000. The annual license fee is basically $40 per user. They're estimating us at 115 users. And I don't know if that's an accurate number or not. So that would equate to $4,600 as the annual fee. So $8,600 for the first year, and then ongoing would be $4,600.
That is good.
So, and it is just our employees, not, yeah.
Thanks.
So, employees needing replacement.
Thank you. All right, and we did talk about our proposed budget already. All right, anything from current enrollment report? Current enrollment report, excuse me, that we mentioned?
No,
or
it's
discussed?
attached. No crazy numbers, no big changes.
No big numbers. Okay. Yep.
I'm on one. So,
Oh, okay.
I'm on a different.
I'm on two. Okay, so next is. My apologies, my apologies.
Order a little bit.
No, the wall is kind of. All right, so the school calendar for 2018-19. Yes, go ahead. Thanks.
So, I did try to open this up to, well, I did open it up to, parents and staff. I communicated out that you were gonna be looking at the calendar, and I received some, responses from people about their thoughts about the calendar, as well as, we did have an early morning, meeting one day where, I had several parents and employees attend the meeting at 7:30 in the morning. So I was very pleased with the feedback, and so I appreciate that. So there's in your packets, there are 3 options: option 1, option 2, and option 3. I will just, on the very bottom in the grayed out section, it just gives a quick update. So option 1, the calendar has some PD days before a holiday. So this year we've had, for example, the October holiday was a Monday, and then we had our PD day the day after. Some of our, like Killingly has the PD day on the Friday before. So then instead of kids having Monday and Tuesday off, they'd have Friday and Monday. And so the staff would have PD on Friday, and then the holiday would be on Monday. So that was some of the changes that were made on that first option 1. Students would attend school on Veterans Day. I wrote, but not on, but not on Election Day. When the group met, there was the sort of general feeling that let's get our kids out as soon as we can so we can enjoy our summer. That was, like get your days in, do everything you need to do, but we want to have our kids for the summer. That was the general feeling from parents, and so then option 2, the difference, this is most similar to our current calendar where some of the PD, so there is a holiday on a Monday. If you look at October 8th is a holiday, and the Tuesday is a PD day. So that those would be a Monday, Tuesday instead of a Friday, Monday off for families. On the option 2, we do have an overlap of some PD days with EastCon, which are regional days. And there's definitely a benefit to that. However, the current initiatives with most of our staff are district as opposed to across districts. There's definitely an advantage for those singletons like PE and art, where they could potentially be working with another district on those EastCon days. So, so that this option 2 allows some EastCon days to overlap. Option 3 was the preferred of the group, and this calendar, again, it ends the school year 1 day earlier because this says this sends the students to school on Veterans Day and on Election Day. So
I don't like that
What
at
was
all.
the discussion about allowing that?
It's-
We used
it's-
to,
it's-
up to the last 4 or 5 years,
Right.
we always did.
But
Yes,
there's,
after,
it's a
I don't
governor.
understand about people who are like, you can't let kids kind of get longer than.
I don't think they're wandering the building, but my
Who knows
personal
who's
was,
coming
I don't love it. In one day, if it equated,
Here too, so it
it's gonna be a
potentially should
busy year.
more, potentially should be more voters than just if it was a local election.
If equated to
Potentially.
more than getting out on Tuesday, Tuesday versus Wednesday, I say we don't go to school on that day. That's just my opinion.
So, so I'm just repeating what the committee.
Yep.
So the committee, said, you know, if we actually were to open the building to, people come in and vote on that day, it would, you know, really section off the gymnasium. You could bring them in the gym door and out the gym door, so they.
That's what we did for the budget referendum.
Yeah.
It was during the school day, but it was a smaller population, a shorter period of time.
And since those vestibules, those separate entrances have been added,
Okay.
you know, it takes away from people coming in the front door and the resident troopers there as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, we would arrange to have the trooper there on that day. So I think that, you know, in light of certain things that have, you know, happened just recently, you know, you could be nervous every day
Right.
coming to school.
Well, and another thing to think about is the way that with the aligned school schedules, as far as the busing, that middle school parking lot gets wicked tight in the afternoon. So any extra cars at all is gonna be problem.
Even in the morning, I mean, because the polls open before school would open.
Yeah.
So
So
even in the
I'm
morning,
thinking
it's
traffic light, like just like, you know, that if you're a parent driving through that you're supposed to be going slow, and I'm just concerned that if
we do have sort of a weird traffic pattern with using both lanes as a one lane. We had somebody just this week that went the wrong way again on School Street. I mean, clearly somebody that doesn't know, but voters aren't necessarily going to know that they have to go down and around all the buildings, and you can't go back the other way. I mean, I think that's a potential.
I wonder about the hardship it puts on parents, though, to have election day as a no school day. So, you know, parents that are working
ahead.
I know,
It's not any different than a staff development day on a random Tuesday or a Friday
or a snow day.
It just isn't. It's, you get the school calendar and you.
So when we say preferred, how many people gave input?
I had, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there were 6, 7, a combination of parents and some parents and employees. So I had some that were just employees, and then some that were parents and employees, and then some that were just parents. So it wasn't a huge group. I did receive some written feedback from people that I brought to the group, and you know, I think the general impetus for the decisions from a parental standpoint was getting out as early as possible. You know, I looked at professional development days and, you know, when do we start? And so I think that, you know, there was a conversation, should we bring teachers in the week of August 20th, you know, have them do a PD day on the 24th? And so some of the employees in the room said, no, thanks.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you know, it's
a fair weekend. That's
Right.
the whole thing.
Right.
Was there any conversation about adding some snow days, just so that we don't target a day that's unrealistic? We know we're gonna have a few, so when we
Well, I like the
say,
note that's in. She's got
when
a
we
note
say you're
there.
getting out,
We need to make some corrections to this note.
So this is just a,
No, we don't wrong.
so the attempt was to try to, yeah, it's wrong. So the attempt was to try to look at, do we build it in now? So coming up with some kind of language that says if there are more than 5 snow days by January 31st, that there would be school on the 2/19, on the 6th. You know, so the question is, you know, on the 6th day, you would go to school that February day and remove that PD day.
and that's good, but if, for somebody looking at this and, oh, good, we're getting out on the 12th, let's leave on the 14th, you know, but, you know, that's probably not realistic.
You know, I guess I would want to know, as a superintendent, you know, you talk about the overlap with EastCon on the professional development days, and you mentioned that it's mostly for arts and PE, right? There would be no opportunity that would be missed in terms of PD on those days?
This year.
Yeah.
So I think for this year, now, so what would happen, what I would do is if I needed to send an art teacher out for the PD on that day, I would say get a sub and the art teacher should go, the 2 art teachers should go. This year, our staff did not participate in EastCon PD days. I think, you know, we need to explore those opportunities a little bit more. But I think the bulk of the PD was occurring in districts. So around curriculum writing, around the two big initiatives, writing at the elementary level and mathematics at the middle school level. I mean, there was other work going on in small groups, but that was sort of like the big push. And so that's not something you leave district for.
No, and there's value to leaving district and being with your colleagues in an environment outside of school.
Right.
But, I think that we should, just my opinion, if we can, do that, do some of that. I
It
know.
gives you the option for it.
Right, and that one year that we did it with, the academy, we had 8th grade teachers, they shared a PD day. I don't know if we did that this year, but we did that a few years ago. And that was a great thing in terms of curriculum alignment. If we can do that too with Killingly or with Ellis, more and more of our kids are choosing Ellis. I don't know, maybe there's some way to get all those groups together to do that. We're not alone with not having a single designated high school. So.
And I think some of that work comes from our PDEC. I explained that we have given that PDEC committee, which is a professional development and evaluation committee, that charge. That is their charge to continue to look at what are our opportunities that we have this year. What do teachers see as those needs? So this is just one one way of looking at it. And I think having some PD day overlap with EastCon is good. Option 3 leaves the March. Actually, that's not a PD day. It says it is, but it's not. So option 3 has no overlap. Option 1 has 2 days that overlap with EastCon. And it has, I think what I'm hearing from all of you is that keeping kids out of school on the election day, that's a EastCon day. I mean, if that's what your choice is. We've moved to the October day. If we look at option 1, we moved the October PD day to a Friday, which aligns with the Killingly schedule. The more we can align our schedules with Killingly, more so than with Academy, we save on busing costs. Woodstock has their PD days kind of front and end loaded, so it's not during the school year. The other thing we did look at, and I think the option 3 took the March 8th day out, was to provide some continuity of weeks of actual full weeks of school potentially. This year we've had a really horrific, you barely have a 5-day week. And so we looked at, can we adjust any of these days so that we can potentially get some 5 days.
So on option 3, it's listed in the
Yeah,
here, but it's not in the calendar, so that's out.
The text is wrong, yeah.
So what happens on the every other half-day Friday that they do PD at Killingly High School? What do our kids do? Do they get home early? Or,
Yeah.
The buses for Killingly show up early?
Friday.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if they had to hang around and find something to do until.
No, the buses pick them up.
Okay.
But if it's a day when we actually don't have school and they have school, I pay for buses on that day.
Right.
And then I pay for the bus when we do. So
Oh, I hear what you're
as opposed to if we have school on the same day, I'm only
Right.
paying one rate
Yes.
as opposed to.
That makes sense.
So
right
it would be better to be aligned
With,
with the Fridays a little bit more financially purposely,
On
which
the-
also happens to benefit from the.
which is best represented in option 1.
On option 3 then, would that put us out on the 10th because we don't have the March 8th day and
No,
election day?
the text is wrong. So everyone, all the other days are the 12th. Option 1 and 2 are the 12th. There's only one day that's different. And it is so it's only one day shorter. There's one day.
So did the PD day go on a different?
Yes, it
in a
went to
different, oh, okay.
Went to April. So went to the
Oh,
April
okay, I see it,
22nd.
April 22nd.
So after your
Mhm.
April vacation, the families and the students would have one extra day of vacation.
That's when they want to send their kids back to school. On Monday after vacation, if you tell them they have to keep them home for another day, they're gonna riot.
Well, there were parents in the room.
I know. I want to keep them home for, what is that?
10 days.
So the snow days, so the date
Yeah.
should actually read the 19th, then the 18th, then the 17th.
Yeah, backwards. And I saw that thing.
And on that one, it won't be, we would lose 22 on the 6th day in that option? I don't care, I don't like that option anyways. Forget it.
Yeah, you're right.
Option 3, I don't like that one anyways.
I vote for option 3.
I don't want option 3. I don't want them home for 10 days, and I don't want them in, I don't want them in school on election day.
Really?
I'm not, definitely
We
not.
always have, haven't we?
We did until the last 4 or 5 years, but I do think that
Because of all the school stuff.
there's some security issues and then there's some traffic issues.
I really think especially this year with everybody going at the same time, traffic would be a
Zoo.
zoo.
All right, so what do you
More
recommend?
than,
I mean, just real quick too, the up in this section here.
It's a typo.
Yeah, okay, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
so wait,
Not too
up
bad.
between 1 and 2, which do
Thank you.
we
Alright,
save the
cool.
most money with 1? And does it fit in with what is ideal for you for development days?
I think it's a blend, so I think it's a blend that you're saving potentially as long as Killingly doesn't change that day, but, and I don't have their calendar yet.
I was
but,
just gonna say, did they
I've
adopt
got-
theirs yet?
No,
Can
not
we,
yet.
we don't have to
No.
adopt this today
No.
until Killenly comes out and we can make our final decision, right?
Why don't we call it first read, because this is earlier than we've ever done it.
Apparently
Can we do
asked for
that?
them, but we try to get them.
They mostly just want to know when April vacation is, because they're already trying to plan.
April
Well,
15th.
ultimately, April vacation is going to be the week of the 14th.
He has the same.
So
one
that
everyone.
solid week with the caveat that if there's 8 or more snow days, then you're gonna start
Start
losing
losing.
from Friday up through Wednesday.
But if you're making
So-
vacation plans a year in advance, you're just gonna not be here.
And they should consult their farmer's almanac. about
Yeah.
But
But is the flu in the farmer's almanac? Is that totally?
Yes,
that's-
definitely. You know, no,
But
I,
I mean, so if we don't approve this now, I mean, people can look at our agenda and see that.
April vacation is the same on all.
It
of them.
doesn't matter.
I mean, I lean more towards the option 1. I like the Friday, Monday better than Monday, Tuesdays.
Me too.
I think that parents would rather have that sort of a long weekend than a Monday, Tuesday long weekend.
Tuesday's just like a really long day.
It is,
Yeah,
I
but
don't-
in terms of, student weeks, I mean, is it 2 4-days better than 1 3-day? I don't know.
I would think.
I think so, and I like having the days off, different days. So in October, we've got a Monday and a Friday, and then you get to November and you have a Tuesday.
Mhm.
So if you're the
The specials teacher on Mondays and Tuesdays always have it the hardest. They
Right.
miss the most music or the most art or, whatever you have. When you have gym and you miss it every Monday. And
Just
just
so
really
you-
get angry.
Just so you know, the April vacation is the week of the 14th. Good Friday is the 19th.
Mhm.
Easter is the 21st, which the 22nd would give you the day after Easter. Families would give you the day after, even if you don't want them home.
And some people might like that if they travel.
Right. So I remember the conversation now, that the 22nd is the day after Easter. So if that was a PD day, families would have another day.
And then
So
probably
if
that-
we moved, could you,
But that would be the first one that got axed.
But then the 419.
That's
Right.
So,
We have school on Good Friday. We don't. It's not, I think it, we talked about this, it's on somebody.
it's the custodian and the secretary's contract.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, so we would have to change that to,
We
So
just
then
start
we
on the
wouldn't have-
Monday,
we- Yeah,
start on the first day
You mean they have Good Friday off?
as
they have it all, it's.
but it falls, you said it falls during vacation?
but we
If
can't,
we
we
have-
can't have
It's the
the,
19th.
It's the
So
April
instead of
vacation,
going
but
19,
we
18,
say we'll
17,
begin
separate.
snow
Oh,
day
oh.
on the
It
19th.
would have to be 15, 16, 17, and
Yeah, I
take
think
away
that's
that.
right.
You have to go the opposite way then.
good call.
All right, that's enough.
So you want to refine this?
Yes, I
And
think that's
you'll
good.
make a motion next month?
That's what I said.
What is everybody leaning towards 1?
We'll tell you next month.
gosh, Joan, if you come back with 3, I'm gonna.
Well, those are all wrong.
Patty's gonna give us a choice
Friday
of
was
one
next
next month.
I'm sending my kids to your house on April 22nd. You can do with them what you want. And election day too.
They'll be,
No, I'm just kidding.
they'll have a whole basket full of Easter candy. You don't even have to
Exactly.
I know.
Bouncing off the wall,
Because
not
the
even
teachers don't want them on that Monday.
Fifth grade,
It's like the
I
day
can
after
just leave the
Halloween.
boys
What day is
home then, right?
Halloween?
Wednesday.
Is it? That's unfair.
What's a Wednesday?
Halloween should be moved to Friday every year.
It should be, you know what,
Saturday.
when I was a kid, we always trick or treated
Is
on.
that in Massachusetts? then?
Yeah, on Friday, you trick or treated on Friday night.
I vote for that.
All right, so we're gonna change the bottom paragraph that if there's 8 or
15th,
more
16th,
snow days,
17th.
it's gonna be the 15th, 16th, and the 17th, because we
Yeah.
can't take away the Good Friday. I don't change that at the top. And option 1 is the most transportation
Potentially.
money savings,
Yeah.
like maybe because of that, all right, so that's.
Because of the Killingley one.
Over option 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's really kind of the
Right.
difference that we're looking from 1 and 2 is that there's more transportation savings with 1, but there's more,
East Con alignment with
there's
2.
actually not more East Con alignment because they each have 2.
But maybe these kind of alignment isn't even a considerable if it's only
If we're
related
not-
to a couple of special
Not this
teachers
year,
that
I
would be,
think it's
yeah.
Maybe in
Future.
future
So,
years.
yeah.
But we look at the calendar every year anyway,
Yeah,
so.
maybe even take that reference out if it's not
But both of, I mean, it's. I
But
think
you're
it's-
right, they're both
Well,
only
this is our
2.
reference for us to.
Yeah,
But
right.
it's good to know, but they both have 2, so
Yeah.
that part becomes a moot point anyways.
Yeah.
East Con.
Okay, now,
Oh, no, because the East Con, the 9th is East Con, it's just not noted on there.
I would think.
October 9th. It says it on another one.
8th.
No, 8th is Columbus Day, October 9th is professional development on option 2, which is an East Con one. I thought it was on a different day.
And it might be.
It is, right?
No, November 6th.
No, October 9th just doesn't have the notation for it.
That's just pulled it, right?
I
Yeah.
think there might be a
Yeah, I
value,
think it just doesn't have the notation.
there might be a value to looking at April 22nd as professional development day instead of January 18th, just because of the snow days and all the breaks in January that we have so many days off.
Mhm.
If you move that, and then that would allow families to
Have
travel
that
more
extra
easily
day.
to get home if they've gone somewhere.
I
think
think
we're
they're gonna go back to, if you have 8 snow days, that's the first day that gets asked anyways.
Plus January 18th was the Killingley Day.
What do you mean killing with it?
Well, because that would be a Killingley professional
Oh,
development day to try to the bus a little bit.
It's just that this January at least, like, I was like, are you kidding me?
I have faith in you, Patty, and I know next month we'll see a wonderful revised version.
Except for not
We
option
could
3.
sit here for this for hours.
You never make everybody happy.
Yeah,
Joan wants to keep talking about the
we won't even see the option 3, right?
Option 4, what's option 4?
Who's on first?
We didn't even talk about the Woodstock one, which is totally way off of any of those options, so.
We
talked about it at our committee,
Yeah.
and nobody was really interested in incorporating that into our
I
calendar.
know.
All right. As far as dates for budget workshops, I think we are gonna just kind of hold off, unless we get some new groundbreaking.
We ought to be able to do it within the meeting.
I would think so.
Unless we get some information, and, what I would say is potentially just carve out 7 before we, just a mental, possibility, like if there's something big that we have to go over, but if not, then just plan on at the actual board bed meeting next month, we can do that. All right, so as far as policies, because now Joan's gonna kill me. Because I got the thingies. So Joan said that there might have been a little bit of miscommunication. So,
No, I don't think it
or,
was,
well, just.
yeah,
just-
if I
okay,
can give
go
you the
ahead.
overview as a committee person, I will.
Isn't it?
I think that, what we did prior to this was catch up, and get policies, put, as the goal was online, and they're out there and available. Now what we're trying to do is catch up on everything that occurred after that's new in current policy. So Kate sends the updates, and then,
Mrs. Buell has been looking at those and channeling those to me, and then we get together to agree, you know, what stays, what goes. So what was presented last month for first read, there's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that don't even apply. So I wanted, and we agreed on this, and I just wanted to read those off so that you can pull those out of your notes, and we don't have to painstakingly go through those. It's 6146, graduation requirements. Obviously, we can align with 4,000 different schools. 3516.33, do not resuscitate order. 4112.2, certification. 5141.3, health assessments and immunizations. 2141, recruitment and appointment of superintendent. 6172.1, gifted and talented students program. And 6111, which is the school calendar. So, as you know, CABE recommends policies based upon some situation or issue that occurs. You know, it doesn't mean that you have to have a policy for all these things. You don't want your policy manual to be ridiculous. Sometimes less is more. So, you know, our recommendation is to nix those. So the first thing I would ask is, does anybody have any concerns about that?
Those were most of my questions.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
For all your
The
marketing,
next, yeah, the next time we do this, I don't know, we can just note rescind in the title name. Do you still want to see them?
No.
Okay.
I think if we,
I mean, we can do rescind in the title, and if you really want to see them, look them up. It would save an awful lot of paper. Right?
if we don't, I think if it's something that we don't, it doesn't apply to us, like the high school thing. It doesn't
Right,
apply to us,
right,
we don't
right,
need to
right.
review it, we don't need the.
Okay.
Well, somebody noted on them, like, maybe instead of giving this, you could put it here and put a notation underneath 6146 graduation requirement, and then put a note, doesn't apply where, you know, pre-K 8.
Right.
Maybe just a tiny,
Yeah.
this is
Good
why it
idea.
doesn't apply,
Yeah.
and then you don't have to print this, but if somebody
Yes.
wanted it, they could ask you for it. I
Right.
don't know.
I think the issue is, you know, these go back to November, and I wasn't
Yeah.
here, so I'm sorry, but here we are.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see, let's start with 6171. Is that?
Well, let's take out ones that we have questions on.
Okay.
And then if
Okay.
there's things that, because I have ones that, usually what we do is we
Oh, that's
take out the
right.
ones that we have
Okay.
questions on, and if there's ones that we can accept, we accept those, then we go back to the questions.
Okay, because we do have recommended changes for certain ones. So I was gonna suggest that we go through the list of ones that we agree to adopt as is and talk about those first, and then anything outside of that, go to those. Is that okay? I just wanna move it along more quickly than that, if we
I think you're both saying
can.
the
Can
same
we
thing.
do that?
I
You're
think
both
you
saying
are.
the same thing.
So let's pull out ones recommended to adopt. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
ready? Are we?
Wait,
All right.
brand new ones to adopt?
Adopt as is. All right, you ready?
So wait, all right, so
What if it's one that we have a question about?
so
You
we
can still ask
okay.
questions. Okay,
Well, because what we're trying to adopt.
right,
quick.
okay,
So does
so, yeah,
anybody,
all right.
so anybody have a question on 6171?
No.
So we're gonna put that in to go through.
Okay,
Does anybody have a question on 411822?
No.
Sure, put that one. What's your next one?
5113,
I had a question about it.
okay, let's pull that one out.
I don't know what I do with it now.
5145.
Wait, mine is 514551.
Yeah,
So we-
41,
I
I'm
got-
sorry,
I
I
got-
skipped that.
Correct, so the question about that one.
Yes, we do too. So
Okay.
I was trying to pull out ones
Yep.
that adapt is written, but,
All right, so
I was gonna go back to
5113, just,
but
oh,
yeah,
wait,
that's
I got
okay,
it.
you go.
No, that's two. Anybody see E?
Well, but there's 3 of them, so I don't know which one you're talking about.
No, it's just continuation of the page.
All right, so
just
617.
A is page 1,
This is
B
the one
is
I had
page
a
2, C is page 3.
So it's a six, so the
So
policy itself is
entire-
6
no
page.
questions on the entire.
No, 5113, we're gonna accept as is. Unless somebody has a question.
No, I was good with 5113.
It's just adopt.
Okay.
So the ones that we're recommending for adoption are, as is, are 6171.
Yep.
4118.22. 5113.
Yeah.
5113.2.
I have
Yeah.
questions.
Okay, let's just pull that then.
Okay.
let's see, 6146.2.
I got questions.
Oh, no.
And it's about, there's one minor exception, the references to days 10 and 11.
Okay, so we're pulling out 6146.2.
And adopt as is, would be, okay. No changes to that, revise changes, we have to change that. So that's
Okay.
it for adopt as is.
All right, so what we're gonna do is I will accept a motion to accept 6171, 4118.22, 5113 as is, so 3 policies accepted as is.
Okay.
I'll make a
Got
motion.
Kelly,
Second.
Nate, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Okay,
so,
what's left?
so we'll start 5145.511, sexual abuse prevention and education programs.
All
So the
right,
recommendation is yes with alternate language.
I had just a couple of questions.
This, or, yeah, hang on, what's-
Oh, yeah,
so we're gonna do the
Yes.
alternate language first, so we can, so does that take out this language?
yes without alternate language.
Oh, without the
Without.
Oh, so we just take out this,
Right.
alright, so we speak. So
Strike
first of
that.
all, strike the alternate language. My first question is on the bottom of page 1 of 10,
Yeah, K through
pre-K.
12.
Should it say pre-K?
I don't think it,
I don't know if the sexual abuse and assault awareness prevention program actually goes down to pre-K or
I don't
just K.
I don't
Okay.
think it's K.
It's K, okay, that's what I wasn't sure
All
about.
right, we're
This,
striking this alternate
we're
language.
striking, where does that go to?
It's just this,
Just one?
right? Yes, because see, this goes 1, and then because I initially thought it was all this, but it's not.
Oh, it's just this one.
just number
Right,
1.
then number
Number
2 you keep, right?
Okay,
Oh,
and
yeah,
then,
because 1 is there.
Right, 1,
alternate.
2, I know, these are confusing.
okay, and that's, all right, so
And then
this
keep
note is
three.
regarding these.
I have a
Above,
question in 3.
that would stay with 2, that no.
Okay, that was my question on that side.
Yeah.
All right, so 3, on which page? On
Page 3,
2, okay.
number 3,
Page
it references an administrative regulation.
page
Do we
3,
have,
Where's
page
where's
3,
number 3?
well, this is number 3, starts on page 2, implementing a child sexual abuse curriculum.
Yep.
And it continues on A, B, and then in the paragraph right below B, it says, directs the superintendent to develop an administrative regulation to address the issue, blah, blah, blah. Do we have an administrative regulation to address this issue?
We don't have to.
We don't have to,
You
even though
can
it,
have a policy without a reg.
okay. And then, because it also references if you go further down under reporting, it references 2 specific policies, or 2
Regulations.
one is a
administrative.
policy and one is a regulation, but do we have this, is this the correct?
I think those are the
Reference, I
correct
believe that's
reference
the correct
numbers.
reference.
But double check it.
But we don't, and although we may have some administrative policies, they're not like published, it's not a.
So should we take out this? The Board of Education directs the superintendent to develop administrative regulations to address the issues of students obtaining assistant intervention, blah, blah, blah. Should we just strike that paragraph if we're not going to develop that regulation?
I think that makes sense, I mean, it's something that we're gonna do, but.
Because I just, if somebody's talking about the policy and they say, well, there should be an administrative regulation to go along with this,
Right,
can I see that?
yeah, if we don't have a regulation, it shouldn't be there. I
So-
agree.
So strike out the
so the
paragraph
paragraph
below
under
B.
Yep.
And then we're just gonna double check that we do have these policy and administrative regulation that are specifically
Correspond with that.
referenced in there.
Yeah.
Those were my only questions about the whole thing.
And my question was the alternate language.
We
Struck
struck the
that one out, okay.
alternate language
On 2 and 3.
on 2 and.
So on
three, yeah.
page 2, it's the number 1, 1A through F, and then on page 3, it's.
So,
that paragraph-
just
that
for
paragraph.
your understanding, CAVE recommends these policies to us, and then if
It's like a choice on
districts
something.
push back and say, this doesn't work for us, we need alternate language, and it becomes a recurring theme, they will provide it in the draft that they give us. But we can change this in any way, shape, or form that we want to fit for our district, though they discourage that because they know that, Vin Mastaro, who's done this for 50 some odd years, I don't know. This is based on, his experience and his, I guess, putting all of this together, working with the many districts in Connecticut, so. All right, so we're gonna strike the alternate language, we're gonna get rid of that paragraph on page 3 of 10.
Yep.
Here, and then we're gonna make sure that the regulations match.
My only thing on the bottom of page 4 is, it's just my hanging reporting procedure.
Every
Just
time
like-
I read it.
Well,
yeah.
and that's, I just, well, because it was, and then the contents.
Oh, I
report-
have a question on page 7.
Oh, wait, hang on.
Sorry.
5, and so that, which hanging paragraph did you have?
Where it
Oh,
says
okay.
reporting.
Well, it should, and the same thing on page 5,
Contents of
just,
reports.
it's sometimes it's hard to read.
Yeah.
Page 7, I have the same paragraph thing. and-
Oh, and I have a thing on 7, it says evidence of abuse by other school staff is the title. And then it says, it talks about non-certified school staff members. But then where it starts, the board shall provide to the commissioner, blah, blah, blah. It talks about teachers. And it gives a definition of teacher to include certified professional employee below the rank of superintendent. I guess I was just confused by that section because it started out as other school staff and non-certified staff. And then it moved into certified staff. Am I just weird?
No, I understand what you're saying.
Because in the previous,
Is it because we have to report differently?
well, it
about
talks
our
about it over
certified?
here, it talks about certified staff in the previous section.
Yeah.
The whole previous section, evidence of abuse by certain school employees, that whole section is certified staff.
Right.
And then I thought this whole thing was supposed to be
Everything but-
on
Right.
non-certified staff, but then it really goes into teachers and what a certified person is. So maybe that belonged above.
It does look like that should go up there. So the board
Is that
shall provide-
repeated somewhere else?
It's in
It
the
is, right?
section of evidence of abuse by certain school employees talks about, that whole section is about certified employees
Right.
and
But
their
is this repeated?
suspension and blah, blah, blah.
No, it wasn't.
It's a little bit different. That paragraph is different about, record keeping
Yeah,
and,
you're right.
and I just think that belongs
Let's
up
move it up.
under evidence of abuse by certain employees.
I agree with you.
Good catch, move it up.
Anything else on, I just have a comma.
I did not do that
A hanging participle.
because I figure somebody's redoing these anyways. I just assume that they're gonna tell you assume, but
All right,
All right, so that's what I was confused about now.
and then on page 10,
Okay, now, just okay.
well, all right, so shall teach all statutory requirement, required comprehensive health components, including a health education curriculum for students in.
Okay,
Do we have health curriculum for pre-K though?
Probably health, but not sexual.
This is not
Yeah.
sexual though, this is shall teach all statutorily required comprehensive health components included in a health education curriculum.
But
in the
policy
area of
is-
sexual abuse or
Right.
assault.
Yeah.
It's at the end of the sentence. I don't think it
Yeah,
pre-K
so
belongs
the
there.
policy
Okay,
is sexual
I
abuse
just
and
wanted to
assault.
make sure that we weren't forgetting the pre-K thing, because I know that a couple other things that we've done in the past,
Yeah.
we always have to do that. All right, so.
Okay.
Sexual abuse is
So
done.
this can go back in this.
All right,
To it.
so, 5113.2, truancy.
That new policy, this is compliant with regulations. Okay.
Well, it says version 1 on the top, so I just didn't know if like I was missing that we were supposed to look at a different version.
No.
Okay, so I can just straight that from my.
So this can just go in the adopt.
Wait, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. All right, so that was page 1. Page C, the board on or before 8/15/18 shall implement the truancy intervention. And at the bottom, the SDE is required to identify these effective truancy intervention models by 8/15/17. So I wasn't sure if these were supposed to be the same year, if it was last year, if it was this year.
Supposed to be last year and then 1 year,
Right,
right?
so,
That's
so
my
the,
understanding.
So the
state
SDE
would
did
develop
it by
Yeah,
last year, then we're supposed to do it by this year.
right, we have 1 year
Okay.
to implement.
I just was making sure that I
I'm
was.
just thinking, I'm not sure if it did happen, but.
What's the actual age of when students have to start school?
7.
It's
That's
6
what I
or
thought.
7 is in
It
another
says
one.
6 or 7.
Between 5.
Yeah.
They're required to go.
So if a child is registered,
Unless they enroll.
if they're enrolled, then they are truant at whatever age,
At
could be a preschooler. They're required to attend whatever their program is. If they choose to hold the child out, then
They can't be truant because they're not
Once they
enrolled.
start, then they have to become.
Once you're in the program, you're truant.
Okay, so that's all I had for 51132.
Yay.
All right, check. We're
6146.2.
Minor revision.
The recommendation is adopt a new policy with the exception of the references to grades 10 and 11.
Right,
Yeah.
so that, I just,
What did we do?
well, I just had a
Students
question
about going this year in 11th grade. Say this, that should be locked up. For each 11th grade student.
We have 11th graders.
Right, that whole paragraph should be gone.
this should be, all right, so
Yeah, the
the
word,
11th
I
grade.
just took this to be not applicable, that part.
Yeah.
Yeah?
right,
okay, so the
Right.
paragraph that's under the note box should be gone.
Yes.
And then,
This was the.
so scores from year one are ready to serve as a baseline, or is?
Prior to that.
no, it's true. Okay. I'm just kidding. Yeah,
This is just me.
no, that's great.
Sorry.
Where it starts students, are you going all the way up to where it starts students enrolled in grade 11?
Yeah.
Shall be annually type nationally, and then we talk about the SATs,
Mhm.
that's all not applicable.
We really don't even need this one.
It
Why
says
did
not
we-
required.
Why
I-
didn't we say we don't need that? Why did we say to adopt this? Because everything else that was related to SAT, PSAT, high school, we didn't. So I'm okay with rescinding it if you are.
Because the CMT
Well, we
science
talked
is
about
grades
the
5 and
national
8.
test.
Oh, is that the only
There's
business?
5 and 8 in here, that's
Oh.
why.
Do they still?
Well,
call
anything
them
related to
national tests?
SAT and PSAT, we should get rid of though.
Science. Although no, we
What?
don't. You're
We
right.
don't.
We don't
We
have to
don't
give
have
the
that.
science.
Right, because it says in the science cap in grade 10.
So we don't have to do this one at all?
I don't
Well,
think we do.
I think it's changed since 717. That's what I think the issue is,
So,
right?
okay.
Should we,
Because science,
Yes.
yeah.
should we table this then?
Yes.
All right, so
good
we're gonna
idea.
table
It's
6146.2.
changed since November.
I'll review that.
So what pile is it going into?
It's going
No,
into,
no
the
no
cross
action,
out.
no action right now.
No
yeah.
action.
All right, so 4131 staff development.
So on this one, I didn't make any changes. I just assumed that the changes were highlights and the crosses outs were
Get rid of.
get rid of, right? On this one?
4131, adopt this policy to reflect the latest research and the best delivery of professional development. Yes.
And my question was on the C page. The bottom highlighted box, these individuals must complete the initial educational training by July 1st, 2008.
That's what the,
That's the human trafficking thing. The movie, right?
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we knew that date, because that was this year. So, 4131 is good with all the cross-outs and highlights. Okay,
All right.
5125. All right, so Joe and I talked about this a little bit.
Yes. Adopt
This
a
one,
new policy designed for references. We have a policy that is very similar.
okay. My question is this refers to the No Child Left Behind Act, but then someplace back here, and
I see ESSA.
it was ESSA, it referred to ESSA.
No,
So I thought the No Child, so what we're referring back to it, does that make it?
I know I asked Mary about this and she said it's still, I said the same thing because I was striking it from everything, but it's not, I think it's still out there. Even though ESSA has replaced parts of it, it's still not.
I do think that's, and it just references that that was what we were calling it for a while.
In 2001.
Right.
Okay. I feel like.
They want to make sure
that.
they want to make sure you're still complying with No Child Left Behind, but in addition that you're following ESSA.
Okay,
No.
okay,
So that's why it's
Which is
referred
a-
to.
Which is a Connecticut general statute. So I think ESSA came out of, so it's a Connecticut law. So the No Child Left Behind is still federal.
Okay.
I know, it's crazy. It's hard to follow.
Oh, so many letters. All right, so what did you say that we're amending or not?
5125, we already have a policy through someone, adopt a new policy to revise paragraph 4 in legal reference. So
About
as
the
is,
incarcerated
unless
parent.
anybody has any-
Right, yeah.
No,
Okay,
I
do we have to
was-
rescind anything else?
Yep.
Because we have a similar one? Okay, so 5125 is all set then. All right, so under 3520.13,
We're tabling them.
which is both in this.
Yes, let's hold off on this because the legislature is reviewing policy.
Okay, so we're gonna.
So that's tabled.
The next one we've got is recruitment and selection, which is 4111 and 4211. My first, there it is, look, every student succeeds at it.
Yes, okay.
The first question is do we have to rescind another one? Or this overtakes the current one that we have?
We have, yeah, because we have a basic policy that suffices. This is much more detailed.
So this
So the
replaces-
question is, do we want to get into this
Have all that
detailed
detail.
policy, or do we want to keep the more basic policy that we already have? But there's updated regulations too, correct? Yeah, that was the reason that we thought perhaps. Go with that, and then the recommendation was that we leave out paragraph 5 on page 2.
This is on 41111 or
Yes,
4211.
4111/4211.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, we need to start one.
So, I'm sorry, one more time.
I know, we're consulting the master list.
Oh, okay.
Make sure we're crossing off the right.
I had mine out of order from reading that.
I know, mine are out of order now too. 411. Here it is.
So what does the note say?
Says that we are getting rid of, paragraph 5 on page 2.
That's
Right?
me.
Page 2.
Oh, B, yeah.
On or after July 1st, 2016.
Where's that the commencing?
No, that's nothing.
No, you're on a different one, you're on, that's, no.
This is wrong. No,
I'm like,
that's why. I'm like, wait a
What I'm looking
minute. Where is it?
Well, you said because the time is expiring, that would be this paragraph, right? The commencing July 1st
Right.
to June 18th. That would be this paragraph because this has. time.
Yes,
Okay.
right,
So the paragraph
commencing.
4.
right.
Okay.
On page 3, include paragraphs 1 and 2.
So this one, and then get rid of paragraph.
Paragraph 3, the board of ed is informed, for hired teachers on recommended funding sources and fit. And leave out the last, parentheses sentence. I know I revised this, I remember doing that.
All right, so we're just keeping the sentence as the Board of Education authorizes superintendent to employ teachers?
Just this sentence.
Yeah.
Just that sentence?
Right.
And then the first paragraph is.
Yes.
Okay.
Or just keeping?
Okay.
We're getting out this, you're getting rid of the superintendent shall provide the board with full disclosure?
Yep, and then the parentheses.
Because the superintendent has the authority.
All right, so the 4111 and the 42111 with the changes.
Right.
All right, so then the next one we've got is 5144.1, use of physical force. Okay, so my first question is this, alternative language.
Use highlighted portions and get rid of the alternate.
Okay, so get rid of this first bold alternate language
Right.
on page 1. And then my question on page 2 is not for the cool kids. So student needs a child enrolled in grades kindergarten to 12, is that pre-K?
Pre-K through 8?
Yeah.
And do we change that to 8 or 12? Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, so I changed kindergarten to pre-K and then 8. And then I'm on that page.
On D, I have a,
Yep, where's D?
is that what you just skipped to?
Nope, I'm,
No,
yeah,
there
I'm
is
on
an
D now.
D.
At the
Okay.
bottom, it's the 2017, July 1, 2017. Should that be 2018?
No,
No,
that's
because it's
when it
last year,
actually,
and it went
yeah.
into
Okay,
place.
so
The
that one
change started
stays
on-
2017.
And then All right, so such plans be implemented no later than July 1st of 2018.
That was the requirement.
Okay, and then the same thing in 2019.
Yes.
Okay.
And but the last one is still 2017 under F, crisis intervention team.
Yeah, have a team before
What
you
page are you
jump.
on?
Yeah, right here.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, you have to
17 is
have
good
the
on that one?
team before you implement. Yeah,
Yeah.
Where's that?
F, right here.
Page.
Oh. You're on E.
Oh, F.
I'm like,
No, on F as of
Oh.
2017.
Yeah, same date. Yeah.
okay, so that's just, okay. All right, so we're good, so that changes. Okay, so we got that one. All right, oh, I really. Oh. I know.
Oh,
Okay.
God. I couldn't even,
Oh, crap.
oh, wait a second.
Is that 5114?
Oh, this is the one I was super confused about.
Which one?
Yes.
I
Where
have
are we
like
on now?
missing pages, I think.
Okay, so 5114, the suspension and expulsion due process, I was very confused, and also the 5131, because it was apparently with 514. I can't figure out which one.
All right,
is one, and two,
so-
and 3 and 4. I start with
We
X.
currently have a policy, so the
Okay.
recommendation is page J, replace new policy language in paragraph H into the existing policy to replace paragraph 5A. And then page, is it L?
Yeah.
Page L, replace new policy language in paragraph L3 into the existing policy to replace paragraph L3.
Okay.
And then page O, replace new language, first highlighted paragraph with the
on the
BOE
back of L.
policy.
Why is it before N? All right, I'm gonna say I couldn't understand this at all, so I think that we need to have this with your notes on what it's replacing. Because I honestly could,
I just thought it was
confusing.
missing pages, honestly.
There are some that come over that are just.
Well, that's,
and
that's,
I understand that
hard.
sometimes we're just
Well, so-
replacing stuff, but
I know.
couldn't.
But then
get-
there's 5144 and 5131,
I
which
know.
all appear to go together.
Right.
Okay.
And that's the way they sent it.
It
That's
is,
how they
okay.
come.
Okay, so if we could table that one just so
Yes,
that
we'll
you just
table this
I was gonna say, I read through all of
I
the
know.
highlighted paragraphs and didn't have any problems with them, but
How it all went together.
I just wasn't sure what exactly we were replacing, so
I
I'm
know.
a little bit.
Some are very
concerned.
confusing.
And
I agree.
this I didn't,
I mean, there are to say, get rid of, add, write your own, we can do
Okay.
whatever we want.
okay,
They
So-
overlap.
Yeah,
all right, fine.
all right, so we'll get those again together.
So 5114, the suspension and expulsion I skipped, I'm sorry.
no, that was all part of it.
That
That
was
was
all
the
part of it.
5131, 5114, 5411.
Yeah,
I thought
they
it was 5114, no, all right, so
Yeah.
use it, or I already did that, so 5114, okay, so we're gonna table that, okay.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
No.
All right, sorry.
All right, 4112.
And then that one that you had, it said not required.
4112.
411251, which is the employee reference checks.
Oh, but we, need this not required.
Well,
Okay.
so it's not required,
But it's something we should have.
right, it's something that we follow, so the only reason in my mind for including this or creating this policy, because we don't have this one, right, this is the one that we don't have.
Right.
Would be that if any potential employee were to say, oh, I would like to look at Brooklyn, and they go and look at our policies, it's very clear in here what the policy is, and that if you're not compliant with the law, then it's simple. So if they're not compliant with the law, we terminate them and you say, not only are we not compliant with the law, we weren't compliant with our policy either.
Okay. And I didn't have any corrections on that. Did you have?
I was gonna say, I
Language?
didn't.
I know I had a third page, I think it's kind of mixed into the mess in front of me now, it's paper maze. I did have a third page. All right, it's here somewhere.
Okay. I actually didn't have anything on that. So, all right, so we can accept 5, 4112-51/4212. Okay. All right, so that's that. As far as the policies that we added, this is just for first read?
No.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, no, we need to talk about that. So these two policies conflict in terms of when a parent needs to be at the front door when the bus is dropping off. So we did some research and found that our surrounding towns, the majority require pre-K through 4.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to do, is adopt a policy that says pre-K through 4, which is this one. Which is what we had, somehow we ended up, I know, with that. So the recommendation is to put, what is it, 3541.1?
The orange highlighted one?
Yeah.
Is the one we want to adopt.
well, both orange highlighted.
No, I know it's not.
I don't have any orange on.
Oh, I got orange on mine. All right, so what we want to do is, wait, this one's already adopted.
They're both adopted.
Yeah,
Okay, so we
need
just want to rescind
one.
Okay, so we would like to
And
rescind.
it's 3541.311.
So there's two policies. One is about school riders and one's about request for bus change.
Oh, so
They
we're,
both
oh,
need
so
to
we're
be
just,
pre-K through 4.
okay. So we basically just need to revise this sentence to make it say this sentence.
Yes, pre-K through 4 kids.
Oh.
Requiring adult.
All right, so I would entertain a motion that on policy 3541.311, that under 2D, so basically the last paragraph.
Yeah.
Hang on, can I just ask, what's different about them?
This one says pre-K through 4, this one says pre-K or K.
Oh, pre-K or K, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I just kept reading them and thinking they were the same thing.
Okay,
Pre-K, okay,
so on 3541.311, 2D, which is the last paragraph, the first sentence will say, in no event shall any student in grades pre-K through 4 be dropped off at his or her bus stop unless a parent or designated adult is visible. And that completely replaces the first sentence of D.
make that motion.
Okay.
So you're just aligning.
So we're just
aligning
aligning
the
two policies.
Yes.
Aligning two policies in the
Yes.
sentence. So that's what we're doing to do that.
Yep.
All right, so we will entertain a motion to accept with the revisions that we've done, policy 5145.511, 5113.2, 4131, 5125, 4111 slash, also 4211, 5144.1, sorry, 4112.51/4212.51, and 3541.311 with the revisions.
Good job, Joanne.
So I didn't catch it.
All right,
I missed one of those.
Make a
All
motion.
right.
who's making a motion?
I am making a motion.
I'll second.
Any more questions? Because we could shoot.
Oh,
No, all right, all in favor?
really?
Aye.
I nominate Nate for policy committee.
You didn't have to read this many, just
Oh.
saying.
Really something you want to think of.
I know it is.
He thought these were interesting.
They are interesting until you get into the health immunization one. That just
Oh,
goes on
I know, they make people blind.
All right, any other business that we would like to talk about, bring up? I got lost now.
The UConn.
Yeah, you
So
can-
you
Oh my God, UConn.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, got you. UConn, see, it's over on the side.
Yeah.
Okay, UConn, 11F, sorry.
So I was approached early in the year by a group that I think it's called Kids. So it's UConn students that are doing research, and so would Brooklyn ever be willing to have research done? And so I said, sure. But as researchers are interested in doing some type of research, they will specifically reach out. So you have a note here in your folder that explains this project, and it shows you the permission slip that parents would receive and sign off on. So this research project, I was just contacted, I think, this week or maybe I think this week on this. It's cross-cultural investigations of narratives in India and the US, 2 cultures and 1 language. So that's the title of the research project, and it's a narrow scope. I believe it's 2 grade levels. And so by approving this researcher, we would just basically send home this information with students in those grade levels. And if a parent is interested in this research, they sign it and send it back, and then the researcher can contact them.
What are the grades? Can I miss that?
Say again.
What grades is it?
I think it's in my email. I think it's grade. I think it's 1 and 5 or K and 5. So it'd be 1 grade level at the elementary and 1 grade level at the middle.
I feel like we've been like research studies. We don't have a policy around that. Why do I feel like we do?
I believe you do have a policy. That's what I referenced. So you have a policy that says any research that's done needs to be approved by the board.
Oh, okay.
So if you approve, and so this researcher may get no parents.
Or maybe a
Right, and so it would happen, the research would be done on her own, and they would make this, work with the researcher, but if a parent chooses to allow this to happen.
Have we allowed this before? Is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah, we were just saying, I feel like we didn't allow this and I don't remember why.
Would it be done at school? They would come into the
Yes.
school
No.
and do it during school day.
Yeah.
So it's an outside project.
Right.
So all
No, it
we're
says
doing
Sending the
basically is
information home.
informing the parents
No,
that
the
it's a
entire,
possibility.
no, the entire
it's not.
session will take place at school at the convenience for the principal, teachers, and your
Okay.
child.
And there will be a school
So
representative
that
with the
means that you
child.
need to spend your time this way, working on this and it's,
So just being present.
so how do you feel about this?
I am definitely a proponent of supporting research. I do think our job as educators is to support other educators that are especially doing research around children and learning, and so I do support this, and I think that, it would have to be organized. When would the child be able to take in? Where would that be? So it might be in an office. The middle school has more of an office kind of situation. I'm not sure any parents will actually even respond to this, but if they were, I think it's their choice. And so, would I support it? I think.
So do we send this home just like this, or do you paraphrase and send it
I
an
think
email,
This is,
or?
it's very it's really well,
Right, so do we backpack
Explain.
500 of these home?
No, so they would, yes is the answer. They would give you copies for the particular grade level. So
So
there's
it wouldn't be
80.
500,
Right. So we send 80 home with the 2 grade levels, and the parents would have to decide whether or not they want to.
So ultimately, we could say, yes, the researcher has a right to have us backpack this information, and they will, literally get nobody to respond.
But then do we not backpack other things home?
we do.
Like,
We send home,
we do?
yeah,
Okay.
we send
Do you
home
remember-
stuff from rec, we send home stuff
Okay,
from Cub
all right.
Scouts, we send home
All
stuff
right,
from,
there was a point in time we didn't.
There
That's why I
was
asked.
something we
Remember?
didn't
They
want to send
provide
home.
them.
What was
Yeah.
it? Something last year, and that was
Right.
controversial.
Right.
As long as it's not soliciting funds for fundraising outside of the
Yeah.
school,
Mhm.
it can be up to the discretion, and the policy is like up to
Up
the
to the
discretion
discretion
of
of
the
the
superintendent.
I think that was something.
usually if
like
it's like
Yeah.
a registration of something, and it's all those things, it's rec, it's baseball, it's Cub Scouts, it's soccer, it's those kinds of
All
things
go
that all go home
Okay.
by backpack.
So they're
And
talking-
they provide the copies.
The thing that I think that we nixed last year was something about like recruiting for an outside organization where they wanted the kids to be considered. It was more of a,
Yeah,
right,
Yeah.
recruit
You know,
and get more kids.
I guess the question is, okay, so we say yes to this. I mean, is there like some network that says, hey, Brooklyn's in for, doing this research and studies, and are we then going to have, 25 universities saying,
But how many-
I don't know,
How many
being-
research
don't have to
studies
say
come
yes.
up that
I
are
know
in
we
our
don't have
area
to,
too?
Right, I don't know,
And
I'm
honestly,
playing devil's advocate here.
I see where you're going, but
Yeah,
if this is research, I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna send my college kid from UCal to come to Brooklyn. when there's 1,000 more schools in California than
Well, if
here.
you're doing
Well,
research and you want some evidence from the East Coast, you might.
But in that sense of like, it would be based on kind of like, these are research kids that are gonna have to probably
I know,
pay their
I'm
own way to
just
do it,
saying,
so there's.
Does it open Pandora's?
I'm in
box?
favor of it. I
That's
think it's a good thing. I
I'm
think it's,
not opposed to research. I'm
but
just-
no, but I know what
Yeah,
you mean.
Right.
But I think it's a good thing, especially where it's something, it's like the parents have to choose. It's, you know, I mean, sometimes it's, you know, like there might be something in the future where they wanna come in and observe, or they wanna be a part of something, and that's a little bit more, globally invasive, where this is, if they get 5 or 10 kids from kindergarten, that the parents think this is a good, you know, have that perspective.
But I think if that policy is still in place that says that it's still up to discretion,
Yeah.
then.
If it's something that we don't think it has, I mean, and this is, it kind of fits in too with what, especially at the elementary school, is doing their writing. I mean, it's not necessarily writing, but telling a story, and I think it sort of fits in, especially this year with what the focus is.
So, you know, we may get more requests, some of them, you know, so I've gotten requests for, requests for like school counselors, and so there are certain things I just say, no, this is not something that we're gonna, you know, that we're involved in, but if I can support an educational facility, because these are the future people that are gonna support our children, then I try to do it. And, you know, we're perfectly fine with saying, no, that's not something that we're going to this time, but we might say yes to the next, or we might say no to 5 and say yes to 2. This is actually the first request that's come from UConn this year, so,
I also think it's really, we're just a conduit to the
Yeah,
parents, so
right.
I don't really see any harm in it.
Do it.
Literally, every parent could say no if they wanted to.
Right.
I think it's a good, and I really do think this particular one, maybe not so much the cultural part, you know, because we're not a very diverse population, but I think it, you know, they're really, I mean, I think it even fits in, especially at the elementary school, with what we have going on with, you know, how much of writing is storytelling, and I don't know, I think we should do it. And if it's kindergarten, I'll let Molly do it.
No harm, no foul.
right. Do you need a motion for that or no?
I make a motion to,
I don't think we need.
I don't think we need a motion,
Okay.
because it's not, it's just you're presenting it as an informational, and if we decide to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm all
I said go for it.
You're taking this back?
And
Oh, I was
business
just
that,
wanted
do
to
we
keep-
forget to mention
I'm
that
not paying
we're
$600
out?
bucks.
Oh, no, it's free.
It's $600.
We have 2 offered free to a district.
Ah.
Yeah.
All right,
That's why we're
so
sharing it.
I know 3 of the people presenting.
the other handout that was in your folder, the Next Generation Accountability Report, Patty just put this in here for informational purposes at this point in time.
So there's a couple things. One is that, I'd like to come back and share this report in a little bit more depth with you, but I just wanted, so we got these results, I believe it was the middle of last week, and so there's a few things, a few areas to celebrate. When we look at the district, so it's broken out 3 ways. This is the SBAC, so there are 3 ways to look at this report. There's a district report, there's an elementary report, and then a middle school report. And so on those grid sheets, you can see our actual index rates, and we'll spend more time on this next time, but I thought it wouldn't hurt for you guys to have a chance to look at it before you see it in the presentation. In every area that's bolded, which is every area on the district, except for the one that has a dark box around it, that 44.2%, Brooklyn outscored the state. We achieved higher than the state, and the elementary level, they scored higher than the state in every area, equal on that last fitness score.
wow, man, we were so far behind last year.
Well, we're not real great, but we still
It
have
was
some.
92 estimated. heart rate.
That's the part, so the
Oh, I
51.6%.
see. Oh, is the score. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's much more like last year.
Yes.
I mean, not a good thing, but that's much,
So where,
I thought it was a 92. I was gonna say, holy camoli.
No.
so this is
index.
an area that, we are working on, and so some of the, analysis will come in our next meeting, which will clearly tie the work that we're doing in our school advancement plans to these. And just, of note, on the bottom of the Brooklyn Elementary page, Brooklyn Elementary is a Category 1 school, which is the highest ranking, and it is a school, which makes it a school of distinction. So, that's a nice thing, and there's a small percentage of schools that have
So-
that ranking.
Just so I'm reading this right, like just say 1A.
Yeah.
The index is 70.7, but our target number was 75. So we're
the-
still below, but we
We're
gained
below the-
47 points? Is that right?
No, you earn 47 points.
Oh,
So-
points earned.
Yeah,
So-
maximum points 50.
So each section has a point.
Yeah.
Wow, I got you.
So our
We're
index,
above the state.
index,
Okay.
Our target was 75, our actual
the
was
state,
77.
the state set those targets.
7.7.
So,
They
we
set
are-
the same ones for everybody?
yes.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So that's the state target is 75. So we haven't met the target.
Okay.
However, we're close and we have outscored the state, on their state average index.
Okay, I understand this much better, just.
This is the first time we're getting this report, right?
Right.
We didn't get one last
Correct.
year. Yeah, this is the replacement to
The whole, so
the
this is
everything.
the SBAC or this, the
Mhm.
Didn't we
historical.
get the blue, wasn't it blue? or
Yeah, we
something?
don't
Wasn't
get
there
that
some- No, but
anymore.
no, this,
That's
because
good too, yeah.
The fitness numbers, because I remember the fitness numbers.
we
were
did,
like,
we
there was
had
some-
something
like-
similar to this, but it didn't
It
give us
wasn't like,
all of this.
it wasn't like this, but there was something, and you could look on the website, and there's like a
The strategic school profile,
section.
and that's still there,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
And so instead of just giving you a mathematics score, a language arts score, they're tying in a few other factors. And so you'll see some of the description in the presentation. And I'm just kind of jumping through this for you. We will dig a little bit deeper into this, but, so you can see like the absentee rate, they're looking at that. And they're looking at the, performance for all students versus the performance of high need students. So they're looking at, is there a discrepancy or that rate in between? So that's one of the things that the state is looking at collectively.
So since this is only 3rd and 4th grade, is the absentee rate for the 3rd and 4th grade, or is it for all of the
Just
elementary?
3rd and 4th.
Just 3rd and 4th, okay.
And then if you look at the middle school numbers also exceeded the state average index score in all areas except for the fitness rate, which is 10 percentage points lower. Brooklyn Middle School is a Category 2 school. The ratings go from 1 being the highest down to a 5. So, we always look at these, and this is really just a broad look, but we always look at these and say, what are things that we're doing well and what are things that we need to work on? And so some of that analysis will be occurring with our administrators. And how does that tie to the work that we're already doing? And what will this do as we plan for next year's work for our school advancements? And again, this is a little bit more than just one piece of data, which is what we used to look at, just math score, just reading score. And then finally on the back page, you can see there were so Brooklyn has no achievement gaps for high need students versus our full population. So that's a nice thing.
Yeah, it's a great thing.
It's actually pretty impressive.
What do we need to do? How do you categorize, schools of distinction? Is it by points or, okay.
The science, we didn't take the science last year. Do we have to take it this year? The science test,
5th grade takes science, 5th and 8th grade take science.
only 5th and 8th. So why is it, it's just on there.
It's just a template and then.
Okay. But I thought the science test was coming to the elementary school. Was that
Not yet.
not yet? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is it, I don't know, problematic, weird, different, whatever, that the chronic absenteeism between the middle school and the elementary school is so different. Like,
So this is third and fourth grade and the other one's fifth and eighth,
No, the other one is fifth through eighth.
fifth through eighth.
Yeah.
So it's a bigger,
Cohort, yeah. Figure through.
Hmm.
Oh, but those are good questions, we'll.
I don't know if that's just because when you're in elementary school, you're getting acclimated to every bug under the sun.
is it the same criteria as you
Means
just
their
read
immune
about?
system has matured.
More than 10% of the school day, missed more than 10% of the school day? Or do they have a different definition?
We'll review those, I don't
Don't
know. Just first look.
Only because we just read all about that and the policy about a definition of it, I was just curious if they had the same definition. So that's 18 days of school, 6% of our kids miss more than 18 days of school?
Wow, that number is now, we could.
Can we not count this year?
All the flu and sicknesses?
But does that excuse absences or unexcused, or does it differentiate?
In the policy, it just listed
No, but
as
in this
more than
report, whether it
10%.
differentiates, because if your
Yeah.
person has an illness and they're out for 5 days, like you get a doctor's note, it doesn't
I think,
count towards
I think absence is absence, so I think it's the
Doesn't matter.
total number of days, yeah,
Hmm.
because you're not receiving instruction. But we'll check. And then the only other thing I know.
I was still back on other, just
That's
make sure that
other,
I had
yeah.
other, okay.
So the other thing is I did include some information, just flu information. I had spoken to a family member who I thought would be coming tonight but didn't. And I just wanted to share that, we are cautious of what's going on with the flu and we are tracking that.
Is it slowing down at all?
We still have a few cases. I do think it's slowed down a little, but, so we're gonna track that. We are consulting with, we've reached out to our consulting physician to say, at what point, what in our building do we inform staff, parents, and if a particular class has a higher number, at what point does a particular class get notified? Just trying to be, take as many precautions as possible. I'm speaking with custodians today who, they're wiping down handles and,
Stupid green
doors
cleaner doesn't kill
and
anything.
railings, and so they're, we're just trying to approach it from all angles.
I had one thing on there too, just, I had gone to an open house in NFA with my daughter Stella months ago, and John Iavino, who I ran into there, realized that I was a board member, and he's kind of been in touch with me ever since.
Gonna retire every year for the last 10
yeah,
years.
yeah. Well, anyway, he's in. He brought up the idea with me of inviting us down to host us and tour the school and do that whole kind of thing if we were interested.
Do we need
Or
cookies?
huh?
Cookies?
I bet you we do.
I'm
only
sure,
because it was
I'm
that.
sure, yeah.
No, they brought them when we were.
Kidding.
Or at a minimum, he was interested in coming back up here, which he's, what NFA has done a few times in the past, so I can, either put him in touch with you or, we, I guess, talk about whether or not we want to do that, and.
We did go down there once, probably 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was very impressive.
It is very impressive, and the fact that they've extended the busing for Brooklyn, I think, for another 2 years, so it's going to be 3 more years, I guess, total, if you count next year. Then, I think it'd be worthwhile to do it. I mean, whether or not we can coordinate schedules and make it happen or whatever, I do think it'd be cool. We went and saw it, and my daughter was like, "Oh my God, it's like Hogwarts," and it is. It's a very cool.
It kind of makes you want to go back to high school.
Yeah, I know.
I said that.
My
when I
wife
watched
and I
their
were like-
presentation.
My wife and I were like, "Man, if we had this stuff."
I know.
So I don't know, just throwing it out there. We can discuss later, but.
Well, I would definitely say if you want to, ask him on Patty
Yeah.
and see what his intentions are, but I mean, I know that we had also had talked with Parish Hill. I just happened to be here signing something and Parish Hill was here, and I mean, at this point in time, we're not looking to designate any other high
I
schools.
don't think he's asking for that
so-
either. I think he's just, wants to, make sure that we know that there's interest and that they have interest in Brooklyn. He told me that that's a, kind of a strategic plan of theirs is to, look at towns like Brooklyn and.
Grow their school.
Yeah.
Make the offer, yeah.
Did the client has reached out to you yet?
Yeah, and so I had planned to go in February, up for a tour. February seemed to be a little bit choppy, but, so hopefully I'll get there.
Yeah.
But if the board's gonna go, if you want me to go with you, or I can do that individually, but, I did want to at least get up there. I've gotten to Killingly, gotten to Woodstock Academy, and
I've never been there, so
Yeah.
I would
Santa
be
Fe?
willing,
Yeah.
to be willing to go too, so.
Well, maybe if you figure out what day you're gonna go and then just let us know, and if anybody wants to
If
tag
they're
along, then we can do that.
When we went,
Make
we
it
went in
informal.
the evening when the students were down in the building.
That's what he was suggesting, is to come down and do something
It's
like that.
kind of
But,
neat to go during the day though, too, when the students are there.
I took my tour at Woodstock when I went on the board during the day,
Yeah.
and, we got to see, it was,
Yeah.
I know what you mean, 'cause it
Yeah,
was
I
nice
did
to
the
see
same
them.
thing. I went with the kids, the 8th graders that were touring. And I liked that. It was nice to hear what they were saying and see the kids.
and I
Doing
think
what
that
they
they're
do.
very open to, if you want to go during the day and at night,
Yeah.
then,
Yeah,
they
they really are.
open their doors to any of us.
Yeah, I definitely would be interested in going, so like he said, if you set it up, then.
Right.
Okay.
Anything else under other, public comment? Hi, AJ.
Is that report gonna be available online?
The
Which
budget.
one?
Next
The
generation.
last one that went over the,
Next generation.
yes.
I can put it on. It's not complete yet.
Yeah.
There are pages of it, but, it will definitely go on. It's just not quite ready. I can give you a copy of what we have here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the few times I've said in the past few years, like, that's what I always think of looking at. I mean, when you're talking to people about selling someone on town,
I see, yeah.
how are the schools? And it's hard to answer that unless you can go, well, here's how the schools are.
Right, yes.
Probably be good to have your presentation of it first. That way there can be like an explanation of it,
Yeah.
and then, have that, where it's not so new, I guess.
So like those sort of things when they come out with summary pages, like here's our ranking in the state, instead of, I follow what you're saying, but instead of being like, well, we're a school of distinction. Okay, well, where are we? That's what people really want to know.
I think if we give the administration a chance to present to us and actually explain what the heck we're all looking at, because the HR can grasp, but we didn't understand. But I think we can, definitely include that in next month, and so with better explanations.
And the other piece, it's not really budget touching, but sort of is. I wasn't able to go to, there was a talk, it was called Municipal Shared Services and Regional Efficiencies in Connecticut with the Planning and Development Committee for the state. It was nice, I was alerted that they were rerunning it on TV yesterday, so awesome, I caught the whole thing. So if you think that talking about policy is, it's hard to slug through, but you were fast. This was a 4.5-hour meeting. So it was just interesting. It was all of the heads of the COGS. Unfortunately, our head wasn't there. Everyone else was. He did get a lot of good shout outs, which was nice. But they did talk about a few things that you guys had talked about in the past couple of years. And the biggest one that stuck out to me was about the busing. That was like everyone's big concern. And he's saying, look, when I'm talking to my towns about their budgets and it's town with school, he said, all of them like to treat it as we do here, town and school. He said, but that's like having, a household where this is my money and that's your money. That doesn't work, So the big thing they were talking about was pushing forward with a policy that would change the busing requirement mandates from the state, which would hugely impact a lot of schools. So it sounds like that's starting to get traction, which I thought was cool. So maybe that's an area where you might reach out to the COGS, which I thought was an odd place, but cool. Reach out to the COGS if they want to help out with that. Awesome, cut the bills. The other piece, I guess, is just along the lines of the general. Like I was sat here thinking I would wait for the community, whatever they're calling it, the community budget thing. But I get what you're saying with you guys deal with it here, then it goes, and when you make your comments. That's the question of any public member. I would tend to say, like, comparing a 1.25 mil increase to just various vices some people may have might not be the way to go. But the harder issue I had was, I get that it's 1.25, but it was 1.25 before, and if it's 1.25 next year, and if it's this and this, like cumulatively over the course of 5 years, if we're going up by 10 mils, and what is that all based off? And I get that there's requirements and mandates to raise parts of your budget, and then there's cuts that deeply affect your budget. But just maybe a bigger 50,000 foot view of what you discussed tonight would be great. Just along the lines of, in my mind, here's how much we're going up this year. Yes, we went down before, but we also got cut by this much, so we asked for this much more to be given to us. So I get that it's complicated, but just somehow if that could be cleared up. Again, it was, I think someone mentioned the summary page. I mean, those are awesome.
Yes.
I had two questions or comments. There was some discussion during the month about the possibility of looking into photovoltaic cells or some alternate heating mechanism, and I wrote Patty suggesting that it ought to be looked at more globally. I think you said, Patty, you were going to consult with the board or something. I wondered if that's still hanging.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we hadn't talked about that tonight. So just so everybody knows, I've had different individual companies reach out to me. We could sell you solar, and then we actually got a proposal from one group, and if we want to move forward, this is what we need to do. And I think we should be looking at that as an option. I believe that would be a cost savings to the board's budget, but to the town ultimately. And then then I got another call, I think this week or Friday, saying, I'm the answer to all your problems, and I can coordinate this.
Can they call me?
Sorry. But so somebody that's like an independent person that would coordinate the RFP and secure funding and all that. And so he said, and it wouldn't cost you any more. And I said, well, who pays you then? And so basically, there are finance companies that pay this person to go out and find someone to finance with them. And so basically that's, the question is, how do you make your money? And he had some points that said, but you know what you're going to get. I can make sure you get the best equipment and the best wiring and the best of everything. And so
Sign here.
sometimes I feel cynical, but I'm not sure that that's the answer either. So so at the same time, kind of all in the last 5 days, we got a connection with Roger LaFleur, who's done our roofs, who's looking at our energy management system. So what if we were to, and he said, oh, I do solar. And so, it's something that, I guess it's a good question. How do you want to do this? Do you want to would you like to create a committee to look at the different options of, do we do our own RFP and try to save that little percent of a contractor? Do we go with a contractor that we already know that can create the RFP and has some experience doing that? Do you go with the company that's calling and saying, I can do all of that and get you the best of the best?
Like your colleagues done, like what did Comfort do?
I don't know.
Well, and
Concord just went with someone who came to them and knocked on the door and said, we can
Really?
do this for you.
And how did that go
Just
for them?
to, not to get this off main track, but the school is no different from individuals in the state or the state as a whole. We ought to be looking at all alternate energy sources with a long-term view towards reducing this. So if someone's got experience with solar, that's wonderful. But we ought to be comparing, in my opinion, we ought to be comparing greater investment in solar energy versus greater investment in geothermal energy versus, whatever. I guess I would suggest a nuclear plant here, but you know what
A
I'm
wind
getting at.
turbine?
And that's what, it seems to me if the board is going to suggest to the taxpayers that they ought to spend some money for someone to coordinate this, say, LaFleur or some, for this guy who's against it, everyone's prayer. I think the lead to the taxpayers is we're looking long-term at what the energy picture ought to be for this school for the next decade or two.
Well, and I think really we should also be looking at not just school buildings, but town buildings as well. Like it should be, because I believe Plainfield is in the process of doing things now where it's multiple municipal buildings that are getting solar panels. So it's really kind of looking at that whole picture because it's not, I mean, obviously the school really has a bigger roof than most of the other municipal buildings, so it's just more square footage, but if we're.
Bigger usage too.
In my
Yeah.
response to Patty earlier, I suggested that if we do this, we ought to take a look at the large amount of unshaded land that the town owns at the landfill. It's a wonderful place for a solar cell, or it might be a good place for geothermal because the brook right next to it, you could do both heating and cooling. It's just that we ought to do a more global investigation of what future energy sources ought to be.
And I think we need to be careful because I view the solar industry with a jaundiced eye, but I think it's very new and emerging and there's probably good companies and not such good companies
Well,
and older technology and emerging technology and.
In particular, from a technology point of view, you may all wonder why there's been such a drastic increase in solar use or companies trying to exploit solar technology. It's fundamentally because there's a new lower cost way of producing solar cells. And there is no long-term data on how, what the useful life of these are.
Right.
And then there's a whole other technology area that's being developed that is,
Well,
has the
there is-
potential of overstepping.
There is long term. So there's a college class that took on this, and it's been around for 60 years and used for 60 years. The systems generally, the solar cells themselves, will be 32 years by manufacturer, 85% efficiency. But the problem is the cost never really amounted to much until fuel costs rise, until it costs more to produce electricity. Now, what you're getting into is companies that do more sexy technology that doesn't look like a photo of like on the top of your roof, like a shingle like Tesla's doing. But the thing you have to benefit from is even when you're not using your power, it's generating. And then there's things that's probably different because this would be commercial versus residential. I have residential is you're producing and getting kickback credits, secret credits back from the government for as a power station, which offset what you're paying on your cost. The technology itself is stable, but at the same time, it is improving. So to Gustavo's point, every year you get a percentage point of efficiency, but you're going to pay the premium for that efficiency. And then recently, the government just put a slash on Chinese produced panels, so that cost could be rising again for US produced panels. So
It's quite complicated. I don't completely agree with everything you said, but that just points out in my mind the fact that if we as a town are gonna look at, sort of a broad look at future energy sources, we ought to look at all the energy sources. We ought to do it with someone who's capable of doing that. And if the Board of Ed would like to, lead that question, I think it would be a good thing.
So is that, and I'm asking as an opinion, is that something that could be considered a capital request as a consultant, or something that the Board of Ed would go to the Board of Finance as a, well, in this, backwards. So yes, we would like to explore the opportunity of putting solar panels on our buildings here. So that would be under our budget. But if we are also entertaining the possibility of, hey, while we're doing this, you guys, I say you guys with different entity, but at the other town buildings as well, do it together. So does that now move the consultant part or that exploratory part from our little bit of money? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I understand we're all the same thing, but instead of actually being a Board of Ed line item, it actually now becomes more of a town
We
line
certainly
item.
had capital expenditures before that were studies.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, certainly could be a capital item. It certainly ought to be a town-wide effort in my opinion. And you may or may not be aware of it, but there are other town-owned buildings in town that already have solar panels on them. They got the solar panels in the same half-assed way that Pomfret did, you know, and that we were, sounded like we were heading towards doing. And it's complicated not only from a technology point of view, but the economics are complicated. The tax laws give a tremendous benefit to a profit-making company to come in and put up the solar panels and lease them to the school or take the tax benefit, the 30% tax credit immediately. And frankly, we're stuck because we can't benefit from a 30% tax credit. We're not a tax-paying entity. So it's a little complicated.
Sounds like.
So I guess there may be many ways to go about this, but I guess I would suggest perhaps adding in some discussion with Rick while we're leading up to the capital kind of thing. Might say, hey, we're kind of interested in doing this. Is the town interested in doing something else? And could we float a capital request to get started on?
I mean, that was the intent when we were replacing roofs.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be a likely next step for sure.
We're done with that topic. I just wanted to make one other comment. I'm not privy to the security work that has been done here in the last year, and I'm not making a pitch to know more about it, but certainly in view of the events in Florida, I would think that the entire Board of Education ought to be pretty concerned to make sure that our security plans here cover what might be seen as very extreme and low likelihood activities, but nevertheless the kind of activities that if they did take place, the Board of Education and everyone in town would be under the spotlight or under a magnifying glass about. I hope we are moving with this lock project and with other things we're doing here to really doing as much as we can to protect our kids. So I'll just leave it at that. I'm not looking for a
I
response.
was real surprised they were having this conversation on WPRO about, wouldn't it be a good idea if we locked the doors of the school? And I'm like,
Who
seriously?
doesn't lock the
There's
doors?
no do that.
Well, it's just like with
Isn't that
Woodstock
amazing?
Academy arming the guards. I've seen that article. I mean, that happened a year ago now, fall, right? And that article was reposted probably 50 times on Facebook over the last since Parkland. You know, it's not new news. Columbine now was what, 19 years ago in April? So it's horrible.
Well, and there's all the smaller incidents that happen all the time
Right.
that don't really make national headlines,
Yeah.
but all of the school shootings that occur.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I read an article about like lists and lists of them, but
They
they're
don't make
minor.
news. Mhm.
Or, I mean, minor is not the right
Well,
word,
some
but
teacher today locked himself in the classroom with a gun.
Yes. That's
Yeah. So
that's what I mean, like
Hearing
things
that.
like that, that it's not resulting in a massacre, but it's just a very common occurrence and.
So I know that we did go into executive session last month and we talked a little bit about some security things. We talked about a component and, I have explained to you that there are directions that we're working in and moving. So the capital plan, I included some sort of down the road in the next 2 to 3 year potential enhancements for security. Not that that changes tomorrow, but we certainly are trying to be proactive in our drills and our debriefs so that we can talk about, what could potential issues be and how do we resolve those. So those are things that, you hope that we've done all of the kind of the basic things and those extreme cases. We hope we're not gonna get to that point, but, you know, we can plan for everything that's reasonable and pray that nothing unreasonable happens.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, and I didn't bring the comment up because I had any
Yeah.
feeling that there was any lack of effort or anything like that. I don't know all of what it is, and I don't necessarily want to know. I just wanted to raise the issue.
No, I appreciate that. And I think it's probably on everybody's mind.
Mhm.
You know, everybody is having it. I just spoke to a coworker that from a different district, and they had a faulty smoke detector go off at 1:58, dismissals at 2. Everyone's wondering what they should do. And, you know, because nobody's doing a fire drill at 1:58, so is this a fire? Is it a faulty smoke alarm, or is it something tragic? You know, and so those are the kinds of things that make you take pause, and you know, those are the kinds of conversations that as administrative teams we have sort of they call them like tabletop activities. It's not quite police level, but those are the kinds of scenarios that, you know, we do take time to talk about, and especially reviewing the after action reports for any kind of drill or any other type of unanticipated situation. Thankfully, it's not been a crisis situation, but to that magnitude. But we do think about that. What if this was that kind of situation?
That kind of generic question, just out of curiosity from your point of view, when you hear about these, you know, a shooting like this, and they talk about the student who's done this, and, you know, like the laundry list of incidences and warnings and that kind of thing. I just I'm curious on like a generic basis about if somebody came to you with a child that they felt was, I don't know, making threats or behaving in this way, how I know there's so many privacy laws around that. How do you keep track of, I don't even know how do you keep track of a child that's, say, making threats or acting violently, or I don't even know what the right word is in respect to like privacy? Like, how do you know what I'm trying to get at, kind of?
So I guess what I would say is that every individual child is addressed confidentially and individually, and you know, every individual has rights, but then the group as a whole has rights too. And so those are some of the things that we look at. I think clearly as a nation, we don't have it figured out yet. But certainly, you know, those are the kinds of things that administrators kind of spend time talking about. That, you know, what is our response to different situations, and are we responding appropriately? Are we providing the correct supports to children that need supports? And is that enough? And you know, my own opinion, which is what you asked, I think that we're failing some individuals as far as mental health services, not in Brooklyn necessarily, but you know, in the country, I think that we're not addressing all the mental health concerns of individuals, and they don't all have the right level of support, or else we probably wouldn't have this degree of chaos.
But are you asking, if I can just try to see, are you asking like, so Joan is my problem child? So
She threatens somebody.
She threatens, so she's the one that has an issue. You're saying with privacy, if I'm the elementary school principal coordinator and Patty's the middle school principal, there's no privacy this way because this is all school related, because you are,
I guess I'm more like Joan threatens her teacher, right? And or another staff member or another child or a generic, whatever. How do we take that individual incident, say,
And document it.
and document it? I guess document it. So if in 6 months, you're in a different, Joan is now in 4th grade and
But that would be
she's
where the
with,
teachers and the administrators would be able to talk to each other.
but is there some continuity, like, this happened in 3rd grade, Joan threatened A, B, C, whatever.
Yeah.
Now she's in 4th grade. Is there any,
So student
something is
discipline-
happening? Like, I guess I'm just,
Student specific file, like with a social
yeah, like,
worker
how
or
do you,
something.
when it's,
Establishing
when you're
a
talking
pattern or
a
something.
violent sort of a thing, like, if, you know, you talk about, like, there's all these lists of, like, all of these things happen leading up to this. So and I understand the, you know, how important the privacy is but how do you know, like, if this is happening, you know, are we documenting the
Permanent
incidents?
school record.
Is it, I mean, that's what I mean, like, is
But
a
it's not-
child who
it's
makes
not
a threat
fair.
about something,
Mhm.
against somebody, are we documenting it in some way so that it's,
Or here's a separate way to ask, is there any reason not to document that?
oh yeah, that's a better one.
So student discipline is, in their student record. And so, so if, I'm the teacher, I have access to that student's discipline for that year. The principal has access to that. The middle school principal wouldn't have access until they became a middle school
Okay.
student because there's no need to know. So really it's the need to know. The teacher next door doesn't need to know what the discipline, actions or consequences are for a child, but the need to know people do. And so, I think that, the real issue is what gets recorded and what doesn't get recorded, and when do the small events add up to like a pattern of events
Yeah,
as
yeah.
opposed
I guess that's
to-
what I'm kind of getting at, like, how do you so is there a reason why this incident wouldn't ever get,
If this, so
Or,
there would be.
or how do you identify an incident that should be documented, I guess is the way to ask it too. I think to Jeff's point, you know, it's
I know,
important.
it's an odd question, I
It's
know.
I think it's important though to, you know, it's obviously becoming an epidemic, right? You know.
So you
and-
see the
and it's-
whole picture.
and it's important-
Yeah, like
it's
what
important
piece
to
of the
start-
puzzle gets left out because you don't want a mark on the kid's record? Is that happen? I mean, you know,
I think there's a ton of issues. I mean,
I guess,
I think
yeah,
it's the document, it's first of all, you know, you're interrupting your school day to stop and do the required documentation to document the incident. That's one thing I've heard pushback on. Two, I think we have taught our kids, keep your head down, you know, do what you're supposed to do, stay away from kids who, you know, are problematic, you know, go to school, do your thing, pay attention, you know, where I think it needs to be more about kids being comfortable speaking up and saying, you know,
This
this one
weird thing
concerns
happened.
me, or, you know, those kinds of things. I think tons of things, I won't say them all, but those are two
I didn't mean
things
to
that
go
I
off
think
on
are
a
huge.
tangent.
No,
I
I
just-
think there's so many
you hear about like,
layers of this.
it's always post an incident, you hear, well, this happened
Right,
here, and then this
right.
happened, and this
And I
happened,
think
and this
there's
happened.
also a huge
And how
effort
many of those,
by schools to say, you know, we can't afford to send kids out. So there's more of an effort that you're trying to keep them mainstream because there's cuts in funding.
so does that
and
mean that they're not
I think there's
documenting an
tons of
incident?
issues.
for
No,
that
I don't think
reason?
so.
No?
I don't think it means they're not documenting.
Maybe not a good analogy, but for any of you who've been in the service, you know that you have a supervisor or series of supervisors, depending on what job you have. And they're like supervisors everywhere. Some things bother some supervisors and they become incidents that are put into your permanent log. Some things bother supervisors, but they won't put it in the log because they're afraid of what the next guy will do with that information. Mm-hmm. And there are some people that best to not be bothered by anything, so they don't record anything at all. I don't think we're going to have any sort of overriding program in the United States that's going to generate comparable records for students in one school versus another. We just have to do the best we can with our own school. By that, I don't mean that we record every time some kid picks a scab on his next door neighbor or something like that. But you know, if there's a serious incident, it has to be reported. The other thing, which is quite off the subject that we're discussing here, that but I was quite taken by the reports of the activities of the teachers and students in the school in Florida. I mean, they span quite a wide range of activities. There were some teachers who dragged their kids back into the classroom and locked the door and put them in the corner so they weren't in the line of fire. And there were some teachers who encouraged their kids to get the hell out of there as quick as they could. And in some cases that was great because they saved the kids, and in some cases they ran right into the ball. So it's one thing to have programs at the administrative level, but it's the teachers that are going to make the difference in the long run. And what we expect of our teachers is something that we will have to develop over time. There certainly isn't any guidebook out there that says what people have to do. And it'll never be perfect.
And I think, so I think that to that point, we've had some of those conversations already with the district as a whole. And I think that, I've got 2 sets of webinars that I have queued up on my machine to view around school safety. And then, things like the Woodstock Academy training this summer, there are 2 of us that are planning on attending that. So I think, always trying to look ahead and look back and say, what are our practices and are there areas for improvement? That's the way I always try to do it. And that's what we do as an administrative team, which then goes out to those administrators do that with teacher, the next level. But, we're trying to look at each level of this, to at least reflect and on our own practices and see if there's room for improvement.
I don't think there's anything more the board or the taxpayers could ask than that the administration look at this seriously and put the appropriate amount of effort in it. This isn't the only thing the school has to worry about.
And there may be some resources that are gonna be there. I mean, I remember we talked right after Newtown about putting in a way to lock all the doors from a central location. And then I think I emailed you that I had heard them talking about teachers who had a key to lock their doors, but they were understood they couldn't get the key in the lock. And then they said, well, one suggestion was put a button so that the button would lock it. And that when I realized that we probably couldn't do that because we have that magnetic strip that keeps our doors from being locked, which means the teacher actually open the door, pull the magnetic strip off and shut it before it's locked. So that could be time lost that would be very valuable. So there are some problematic things that maybe we could address easily somehow. I don't know.
And, even the button issue, that's not in the lock price. I mean, we've got a basic lock, common lock, that's gonna open with the master key. If the police need to come in here, they're gonna be able to access every room. But not, so if I went with that kind of system, the town doesn't have that much money.
There's not, I don't know what it would take to put a button that would lock the door.
Probably another $100,000 on our locks RFP. And so, easily that.
If you pull that magnetic strip, our doors are locked from the
Yes,
outside, right?
correct.
They already are.
Yeah, and
that's what I
I mean, that's the direction. So teachers are told to keep their door locked. And so even if you're teaching in your classroom, you could still close the door and have it locked, not use the magnet, so it's always locked. At what point would you put the magnet in? I suppose if you're going to stand out in your hall to greet the kids as they come into your classroom, I put the magnet in there, and then
The student has to go to the bathroom. If
They
you
could put it
leave
in.
locked, they
Right.
get it back in unless somebody walks over and lets them. So that's probably why they do it.
and we could even get to the point where the student puts the magnet in, goes to the bathroom, comes back, pulls the magnet out. And different age children will be able to do that, and some will and some won't. So, but I think those are the kinds of conversations that all teachers need to have and administrators need to have. And so if I'm the teacher in this classroom, I say, well, there's no steadfast rule. I have to have that, but my door has to be locked, whether I use a magnet or not. And so those are some of the things, like, when I was over at the middle school and we were doing a drill and, one of the doors wasn't locked. And so we said, oh, that needs to happen. And so,
You're supposed to
even
keep them locked during the day?
for the new,
Not
lock
locked during the
system, we're gonna have sub keys, because that's another issue. When the sub's there and the teacher's got their key at home and you've only got one key for that door, well, that's difficult. So that door is left open. And so, I think we keep kind of tackling one thing after another as they come to light.
The swipe things are too expensive to swipe each door.
Yeah, that'd be maybe a couple $100,000 more. I had someone want to, come and tell me, oh, I could do that for you. And
We don't have that much.
Did he come with a solar guy?
Next day.
Oh, if it came to quicker, then I must get close. Okay, so we are going to adjourn to an or recess to an executive session to discuss the superintendent's mid-year evaluation. AJ and Jeff, just to let you know, we are gonna come back and adjourn the meeting. We're not voting on anything coming out of that, so you guys are free to leave.
Just in
You're
case
not
you
gonna
stick
miss. Oh, yeah, to do that, so. 2141, we are gonna go into executive session to discuss.
Good night.
Good night. To discuss the superintendent's mid-year evaluation.
You want to go right there?
So we're gonna turn